This is a Radical Rant podcast. Radical Wrestling Podcast here on January the 4th of 2020. It's a brand new year and a brand new edition of the RWP. So we have Adam aka CSRadical here. As always, I got Joe JMK. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, my friend?
It's still winter, so we're not doing so good. But, you know, at least wrestling's still good. At least that's still going good.
Wrestling will keep us warm.
And then we got, obviously, Liam LDZ here. How you doing, buddy?
Happy New Year, Adam. Happy New Year, Joe. Good to be here with you boys.
Yeah.
So, obviously, it's been a new year. How was the holidays for everybody?
I was stuck in Texas in a very cramped hotel room for New Year's Eve. Not exactly all my loose 20-something wino friends were out, imbibing, and I was home with my family watching The Simpsons. But it was good. It was fun nonetheless.
Well, I can ask you one important question. What was the temperature there?
It wasn't as hot as it usually is in Texas. Texas, obviously, the reason you had to.
But how warm was it?
It was, I want to say, most of the time we were there was in the 60s.
Okay, so as I quickly Google that shit.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
tell you what that would have been here. 32 is 0, so you're already definitely better off. You would have been 15, so fuck you. me and Liam are sitting up here in Canada land just being like, yeah, I'd fucking take that.
15
yeah,
is like a summer day.
Can we just trade our winter and just have consistent 10s? Like, I can deal with that. Anytime I don't have to deal with snow. Fuck.
Did you travel at all for the holidays, Adam?
Nah. I'm not a traveler. Basically, as far as I go, is like a 45-minute drive to family. That was about it.
There you go.
That's all you need. That's all you need, yeah. You don't need a crazy rendezvous.
Nah, I mean, at the same time, if somebody was like, "Oh, we're out in Calgary," I'd be like, "Oh, we'll have fun out there. I'm not flying."
Yeah.
I can't afford to go see people for 3 days.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely antisocial gang. What's good?
So, obviously, we missed a few episodes of Dynamite. The holiday season was not too kind of us scheduling-wise. I was busy the weekend before. Joe was busy the weekend after Christmas. So,
yes.
We missed a couple of shows. We do apologize for that. But, hey, I mean, all we can tell you is it was still good.
Yeah.
That's all that's important.
Damn right.
But as we fall into this homecoming episode, immediate thoughts. Right off the bat, what did you guys think of Taz being on for this episode?
I personally loved it. I thought that Taz is a great addition to the commentary team. Again, they have the issue where they have too many good commentators, and I'm like, I want everyone to be at the position. Then at the same time, obviously, you can't have a
you're not having
booth.
A 4-man booth. That's not going to go
very
well.
No.
But at the same time, it's refreshing, and I like the idea that they're mixing it up so it's not just the same few voices, although obviously Excalibur and JR seem to be the two that are consistent.
Mm-hmm. For
and
sure.
Well, I know that a lot of people are still...
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say, a lot of people still are shitting a bit on both of them. Obviously, JR because he's flubbing a lot, and Excalibur because I think... A lot of people say that he overpowers, and I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, because I'm pretty sure Excalibur's supposed to be the main one here. Like, he's the one that has all the knowledge, so he should be the one talking. Mm-hmm. I know everybody wants to hear either JR or Tony a little bit more, but JR and Tony don't know nearly as much about this independent wrestling circuit as Excalibur does, not to mention all these moves.
Oh, no. Excalibur's the play guy, right? He's the play-by-play guy. He's the one who's calling the shots. He's the one who's calling the moves. JR can't even name half the moves that they're doing. He's flubbed it up like you mentioned a couple of times. So yeah, I definitely do think that he's doing a good job. He brings the vigor. I didn't say the other word that rhymes.
Well, he kind of keeps things together. Yeah. He's holding it together while JR and Tony are always they're throwing something extra in. Taz as well on this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you gonna say there, Liam?
I was gonna say. Well, I come at that from 2 points. I mean, obviously JR, the factor is very strong for me, and I love that he's there, and I think that makes me biased and overlook some of the flubs. And I love Tony. Like, one of the great things about watching Dynamite is that, I haven't listened to Tony call wrestling in 20 years. So it's nice that he's back. And like you said, I think Excalibur move-wise is the best. The one thing they run into is the pacing is so fast in AEW that Tony and JR can be place setting at times and talking about either a later match or some of the backstories of the current contestants, and then a big move comes out of nowhere and Excalibur has to cut in.
A big move? Sometimes it's 3.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Yeah.
In like 2.5 seconds. Yeah. So their pacing can get a bit thrown off that time, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I was really happy that Taz was there. I loved when he was on Dark when they did the Philadelphia episode, the ECW shout.
That was great too. I love that.
And the one final thing I was going to say is that Tony keeps going away on assignment because he was still doing Georgia Bulldog stuff, but their football season is just wrapped up. So I don't think you'll see him have another week off like that again until September when they roll around again.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back to J.R. Flubbing, because this is something that's been bugging me for a while. Now, I'm obviously, because it's required by law here in Canada, I'm a hockey fan. And one of our radio guys for the Toronto Maple Leafs, his name's Joe Bowen. And Joe Bowen will very often during the hockey broadcast either flub something or like he'll lose his place for a second. And it always ends up being this funny moment because he'll end up just joking with the color commentator. So when JR flubs, like I don't necessarily look at that as a mistake so much as it's just a little bit of extra flair to the show because it's showing that, you know, these guys are still human. It's guys just calling matches and shit happens. It's like you watch a 3-hour sports game of any sport. It's not like the guys are calling everything perfectly.
No,
you don't want it to be. Sorry to interrupt you, Liam, but you don't want it to be super rehearsed and oversound like they're reading words off a teleprompter. Obviously, you want it to be natural,
or you know, having a
conversational.
Vince McMahon in your ear telling you to hit 3 different tweet things that you got to make sure you got to get out.
Exactly. Yeah, you want Tony Khan in your ear, just nerding out over the fact that he's somehow hired his childhood wrestling heroes to be in this little company he has. That's what you want. Yeah. So I think that it's excused the flubs. Again, this is an old man, like you said, who hasn't been, you know, in the wrestling, you know, into the current, you know, the PWG type of wrestlers for, you know, a while, pretty much ever. You know, his only real time in the wrestling industry was for, you know, the big name companies. But so he definitely knows his shit still, I think. It's just a matter of kind of learning everything. And he's definitely trying very hard. You know, on his podcast, he always grilled him with JR, which I strongly recommend you give a listen to. Hey, Conrad. But he talks about how he's trying, and you know you have to admire that.
Yeah, and he has the humility that he'll usually make fun of himself or point it out if he's flubbed something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like when he fucked up the Butcher and the Blade, and he's like, "Well, Blade's written on his ass, so you think I would have caught that?"
Yeah, that was weird. And then he said, "Sorry to our friends on TSN." Yeah, that was great. Right?
Yeah.
Like self-awareness. And you know what? Like JR's voice, to Joe's point, you know, he's been calling wrestling on television since 1985. Like JR, for good or for ill, and I still think largely for good, almost like 95 percentile for good, lends legitimacy to AEW.
It makes it feel like it's a big
match. It does. It makes it feel important that if it's good enough for Jim Ross to be calling, then it's got to be worth watching, right?
Well, and at the same time too, like those moments, like even at Double or Nothing when Moxley came out, like it was a big deal when he goes when he's like, "Wait, whoa!" Like it's just like holy shit, you like it locks you in.
Yeah. Absolutely. It makes the whole product seem less Bush League, especially when for a lot of the audience, myself included, I wasn't, you know, a indie wrestling, you know, mark. I didn't know a lot of these guys. So I think all in all, he's the casual observer who's just enjoying, loving what he's seeing. Of course, not too casual, obviously, because he knows a great deal about the biz. But I think, yeah, he lends legitimacy, like you said, and makes it come off more professional and like, holy shit, this is an actual company.
Well, that's the way. The way I look at it straight up is that Excalibur is calling AEW, Tony and JR are calling wrestling.
Yeah.
That's what I look at.
I agree.
So, aside of a lot of complaints about announcing, so we had a new manager in the fray. We have Arn Anderson now joining Cody as the opening match for the show is Cody up against Darby Allin. What do you feel about Arn Anderson in this role? Because I feel it's kind of weird just seeing him like this.
I know Justin Roberts liked it because he gave about the longest introduction I've ever heard. I think that's cool. I think that's legit. It's kind of interesting that of all the people he'd pick, because obviously Arn Anderson was a longtime foe of his old man. But and there's already another horseman in the company. But I've always loved Arn Anderson. He was just beginning to wind down and retire in WCW when I started watching. But I think that it's smart. You know, Cody said, you know, the whole storyline is he didn't have a great 2019. He got his ass handed to him a couple times. He's in a low spot and he needs to rebound. So I think it's smart to bring in a guy like this. And actually, just to jump back 1 second, I wanted to allude to the promo that opened the show, that showed that, like, you know, the Elite did have a bad year and that they, you know, are the Elite still elite was kind of the question the episode opened around.
Well, and basically the episodes show that, hey, they're here and it's a new year, so they're coming back, because every member of the Elite won tonight, so...
Yeah.
Or won that night, I should
That's
say.
right, yeah. So, no, I like it, and I'm interested to see where it goes, and I liked how they used it a couple times in the match against Darby, where he would open up the paper football style so you couldn't see his lips moving, and... Obviously, we can talk about a bit about the match before we get to the end, but at the end, he telegraphed Cody to put the knees up to block the coffin drop.
Yeah.
So they're using it in story. They're using it in storyline and in match already.
I mean, as a whole, it's weird just seeing a face with a manager, and again, this is a place that they're trying things that normally people don't. So I mean, I'm open to the idea. It's just for the time being, I'm thinking, well, this is kind of strange. Like Cody's been a big name. Like I don't think he needs a manager. He certainly doesn't need it for promos. So it's.
Sure.
It's more along the lines of, I think, they're just trying to put somebody with them just to kind of give even a little bit more of that old school feel to them.
Yeah, and it also taps into a thing we've talked about on our last podcast, where it's Cody's alone now, right? MJF has betrayed him. His wife is off doing her own thing. So this gives him, he used to have DDP, Tommy Dreamer, Brandy, MJF. He always had somebody with him, and now he's been kind of stranded. So it's this kind of addresses that by bringing somebody else in with him, and it also
it's okay. He's a Rhodes. Arn will turn on him eventually. He'll join up with Tully.
Yeah,
They'll
exactly.
have their own little extra new 4 horsemen with spears at the head of it. I still am holding out for that. I really hope that they actually wisely go after the 4 horsemen trademark, because as far as I know, it's open.
Well, hey, if the Rock and Roll Express got back together, then who's to say the Horsemen can't?
I mean, they almost had Flair on the original show to advertise the belt, and it ended up being Bret Hart as the spare. So.
Pretty good spare, if you ask me.
It's the best spare there is, the best spare there was, and the best spare there ever will be. But the match as a whole, what did you guys think? Because I thought that was a really good way to kick off the show.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think a couple of notes about the match I liked a lot. As you're talking about the match didn't pretend. Oftentimes, we don't want to talk too much about WWE. It's not what the show's about. But oftentimes in WWE, there will be matches between combatants, and they won't really within the match do moves or do things that acknowledge the fact that these two have wrestled each other before, and they know each other's moves, and they know each other's...
lots of counters in this match for sure.
Lots of counters. The big, one of the big spots toward the end of the match, the coffin drop, he finally hit it off the apron.
I sat there being like, oh no, I don't want to see this spot again.
Yeah, no, I know, me too. I was like, I only see this guy's back get, ripped in half yet again. But, alas, it did not happen. He was successful in hitting it that time, and I definitely think... it was just little stuff like that. If I am going to lend a criticism to it, it's going to be, again, I'm not a big fan of finishers just being treated like regular moves, and I do believe that Cody hit the crossroads once, and then Darby Allin kicked out of it. Whatever, it's another move, I suppose, but if we're going to be calling it a finisher, we're going to be calling it a special move, and I do think it should indicate that this match is ending now. He finished the match with the second crossroads. By the way, Cody hits the best crossroads in the biz, obviously.
Actually, it's not. He won with a roll-up.
Is that true?
Yeah, Darby went for the coffin drop, and Cody got the knees up, as Liam was saying earlier, that Arn told him to get the knees up.
And then he rolled
Well,
up.
shit. Yeah. Don't listen to me.
It was a weird match, though. I mean, as you're talking about with the first crossroads getting kicked out, I actually like that because it kept putting in the story that Cody's had so much trouble putting guys away, especially Darby, because going back to that draw at Fyter Fest.
Yeah,
right.
But
so
he kicked out of it
brought
there,
that
too.
Sense of, yeah.
And Cody was shocked then.
It's showing off that... Yeah. Because it's showing that, like you said, Cody's alone, and here's Cody being like, fuck, I can't even put a guy away with this move. Like, what am I doing? Because, again, this whole story on this show, like you said earlier, is that the elite are not the elite anymore. So it's kind of planting that seed of doubt in them. The other part that was weird about this match, though, is that Darby was spending a lot of time working the body like a heel would rather than doing his acrobatics, which was, I mean, I'm not against it. It's nice to see that, that change up and seeing that these guys can do more than just one type of wrestling, but... At the beginning of the match, I'm sitting there watching it being like, okay, is Darby just going to turn into a technical wrestler here all match? What's going on?
Yeah, I thought it told a good story. He was working the arm, and then they did a spot where he reversed the figure 4. And he actually had a cool move. He had the double armbar submission at one point, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Zack Sabre Jr. fucking submission right there.
Yeah, no, I liked it. And I loved that. Yeah, and like you said, he got frustrated, and he went a bit heelish, and he took the turnbuckle off. And that was probably my favorite part of the match is when Aubrey is giving him like the school teacher look as he's taking the turnbuckle off.
Yeah, and very
Well, the
funny.
best part too is they also didn't do it right away. Like I forgot about the turnbuckle
Yeah.
because it took them another like 5-10 minutes to get to it.
Yeah, he had to be getting
And that was good
frustrated.
on them.
He had to feel like he wasn't getting the momentum he needed to get to that spot.
And that's the thing; it came out of nowhere. So all of a sudden, you think, "Oh shit, Cody's gonna lose," and then he goes for the coffin drop, and Cody gets the knees up. But it's great because when WWE always does, and I'm not trying to intentionally shit on them, but this is a perfect example. Whenever there's a table set up, the camera will always go back to the table.
Yeah.
They'll always show that it's still there, like just to remind you, hey, this is coming. Whereas, like, I don't remember at any point in that match the turnbuckle getting shown off again, unless it was in, just the regular hard cam. But you're not really paying attention because you're not looking at the turnbuckle; you're looking at the action.
Yeah, there's a point
So they
where
did a fantastic job of setting it up, and then suddenly going away from it, so you have enough time to forget that that's there.
Yeah, well, that was a cool spot. Cody threw Darby at it at one point, and he leapt over the ropes and onto it and landed on his feet on the ramp.
Yep.
That was very cool. They also did the spot where he went through, which they've done twice now, and always looks so fucking brutal. Where he's thrown onto one of the through one of the posts, I guess you could say, onto the outside, and of course.
Yeah, that was right at the beginning. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, Darby's the captain, the king of the ragdoll physics type thing. Where,
Now, this time I actually saw how he did it, because normally where the camera shoots it, it's right in front of the post, so you can't tell. This time it was to the side, so you can actually see that he doesn't hit the post. He kind of slingshots himself in the corner on the ropes to kind of throw himself out.
Yeah. The only
I mean, it's still not the best fall, but at least it's not slamming his back against the goddamn steel.
Yes, which you wouldn't
Right.
rule out with Darby Allin because he's a psychopath.
Yeah, no,
That is true.
Yeah, the only
But
like,
I'm at least looking at it being like, okay, thank God he's not trying to kill himself intentionally. He's just going to take a really stupid bump instead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they did the coffin drop safe, and that was my only complaint about the match. Not that they did it safe, mind you, but that like they should have shown it on the far cam. Because then it looks like he's hitting him. Like that's where they started when he went up on the ropes. But they cut to you could see the angle better, and you could see on the slow motion replay he only kind of barely hits Cody. So I thought they should have kept it on the further cam, so it looked better on TV. But alas, I mean,
Right.
it's tough to do. You have to do it that way to do it at all. So I get why, but I think that that was my only complaint. Otherwise, I thought it was a hell of a match and a great way to begin 2020.
You
No
could have
complaints.
picked worse matches.
For sure.
Definitely could have, and I think we're going to be seeing some of those later on the.
I mean, we'll
on
see.
the program.
I got to go through my notes again to remember what the hell was on there.
Yeah.
Quickly, they had a quick interview with SCU where Sammy interrupted and took a couple shots at Christopher Daniels, saying he doesn't have it anymore. So they're doing the "you're an old guy, you ain't got it no more" angle, and Daniels is. I see so many theories because we're gonna go probably to the Dark Order at this point too, because right at the beginning of the promo. Uno calls somebody the Exalted One.
Yes.
So that there's somebody above it. And I actually have a minimum of 3 people that I can think of in this spot now.
I always think it's Matt Hardy, but I definitely.
Yeah,
But
that's
people. I think Matt would be interesting. I now think Christopher Daniels might end up go full blown Fallen Angel again. And
That
take
would
that
be
role.
Yeah.
awesome.
Marty Skrull could also be
Yeah.
into that.
That was the other person
So
I thought
you got
of.
3 options immediately that I'm like, holy shit.
But I like the Daniels
think-
thing because it's a made in AEW solution. And it kind of
Yeah.
jives with if he thinks he's losing his edge and whatnot. The interesting thing about the Sammy promo is that when Penta and Phoenix stepped up to him a couple weeks ago, he just walked away. But here he kind of kept his swagger and challenged Sammy. The other thing I liked about this promo was when they were addressing the Dark Order, attacking all of them, Scorpio Sky says, nobody likes it when spooky perverts show up and ruin their finish.
yeah, it's very
Yep.
funny. I agree.
But
But
I like
next thing
that
on the
theory a
card, we
lot,
have-
Adam.
Oh, sorry.
I said I really like that theory that it's Daniels. I like it because you don't have to go outside the company to bring somebody new in. And yeah, if he does the Fallen Angel gimmick again, obviously that was a career highlight for him. So I think that would be cool.
It also
Yeah,
fits in kind of with the whole theory, the rumor how back in the day when there was the higher power angle in WWE, that Christopher Daniels was actually going to be the one that was going to be chosen for that.
Well,
So,
as long as it doesn't turn to be Tony Khan, I think we're okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
agree. I'll amen to that.
It's
yeah.
me, Cody.
I think,
It was me.
It was me all along. God damn it!
It comes to the interesting thing where we have potentially 3 factions, because you have the Dark Order, you have the Nightmare Collective that are slowly going to be building their roster, and obviously you have the Inner Circle. I mean, the Elite technically is there, but they're not really. Like, they're all doing their own thing, so...
Yeah.
I think that's something that they took from New Japan, the whole idea of faction warfare, which I think is so cool and is really not used enough nowadays in professional wrestling. And I think that they're starting to build up
Well,
these
I mean,
factions.
you take a look at how well they're their merchandise is going. Like Lij is basically like the most popular thing going on right now. So
Right.
like I think PW or Pro Wrestling Tees released their top 10 and Lij was actually on the list. Even and most people would be. It's kind of weird thinking now that AEW's out there and there's all these guys that Lij would take over that much as just a faction in New Japan, which I know a lot of people talk about New Japan, but there really isn't that many people keeping up with them. So that tells you just how passionate those fans are and how over they've gotten.
This is the question I'm about to ask is kind of an aside from that. It's not really to do with much of the topic. But the other day I was on Pro Wrestling Tees. Actually, no, I wasn't on Pro Wrestling Tees. I was on Reddit. I won't lie to you guys. And someone was posting a photo of how they saw Walter from NXT UK has a shirt up on Pro Wrestling Tees, which is very interesting to me because I was under the impression that was kind of only for these indie guys and, kind of AEW to an extent. So I don't really know how that works.
I'm not sure. It probably has something to do with like how the contracts are written up, maybe.
It's interesting. I don't know. It's very digressing from what we're talking about, but it's interesting nonetheless.
But anyways, the next match we had on the card, obviously, Liam really liked this match. It was the four-way for the women's title: Rio up against Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker.
Yeah, this is the best women's
so
match.
I'll give Liam to start that one since he's fawning over that one.
Yes, well, I think that it was the best women's match they've done yet in the company. I know that this was a conversation or a topic of much conversation between us on our first show we did together. I thought all four of these women upped their game. I know that we've been hard on Britt Baker in the past, and I think she was still the weak link in this match, but even she had a couple good-looking moves. There was a DDT onto the mat, and there was a neck breaker, and as we'll allude to later, although her delivery was pretty bad in that promo against Rio at the end of the night, I think if they're going to turn her heel or send her in a direction where she joins the Nightmare Collective, that might be interesting. But
I will say I love the fact that there was never introductions.
Yeah, no, Nyla just started attacking Riho, which was great, and then Shida hit her with the wooden sword, which was kind of acting as a kendo stick. It was mayhem right off the bat. There was a table senton that looked awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Looked very, very cool.
Riho looked really good.
Nyla,
she was way more aggressive than she normally is. Big drop kicks, big running knees, lots of counters. I thought this was great, start to finish.
What do you guys think? I'm just out of curiosity for this match. What do you guys think of Riho doing the coup de grace? Because physically, she does not look like a super intimidating gal.
Well, but it's one of those moves that, quite honestly, it will hurt no matter who does it to you. I mean, if a little kid jumps right on your rib cage, it's gonna knock the wind out of you. That's the whole point of the move. It's not meant to be devastating. It's meant to knock the wind out of you temporarily, so you can't move.
Yeah, right. And she did it back to back. She did a rolling one on Nyla that looked awesome, and then she did it off the ropes.
Right.
Yeah, the idea of it is that it just punctures you enough that you have to catch your breath, and you're too busy trying to not die of suffocating to just raise the shoulder up.
Yeah.
So it works for her that it's a good for like a 5-second knockout.
And given that they threw this match together at the last minute because Chris Statlander had a show in LA she had to do that existed from before she signed her AEW contract, this came together very shortly, but I thought it was awesome. And
it was a little disappointing that they didn't see that beforehand, but I mean,
yeah,
because to me I had a slight opening that Hikaru Shida might win this match. By the way, Riho won this for those who haven't seen the show, but it pretty much telegraphed that Rio was probably retaining because the match was already set for these two. You're not going to have this match the next week and then have as a different opponent because now you have to rehearse a new match in like a few days.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw a theory online that like if Britt won the belt and then lost it next week and then she just got super frustrated because things aren't working for her, that would be a good way to turn her heel. But I think this still works.
We'll have her join the Nightmare Collective then, since Chris Statlander.
Yeah,
wasn't.
I think that might happen anyway. That might be a way they go. I'm interested to see, but it definitely looks like they know they need to send Britt in a new direction. So we shall see.
Yeah, because clearly being the wrestling dentist is not working.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
but as a whole, like I didn't. Now, obviously, Liam really loves this match. I thought it was fine. Like again, it was just another good match. I still think there are matches better than this. I think this one got a little bit messy at points. And again, I am a little bit biased because I really don't like Baker. I think every time Baker's been in the ring, it's been relatively hit and miss. So unfortunately, that didn't work out. Rose was definitely better than she has been. I will definitely give her that. But I have the same complaint with Riho that I have for a while, that Riho against bigger opponents just does not look good. It's Mysterio and Big Show is always one of those matches that can be a tough one to watch, and in this case, it's the same with her. Sorry,
Yeah.
my voice was cutting out there.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I think that, like you give it the Mysterio Big Show comparison, I think that big guy, small guy works a lot of the time. I just think that you really have to work on the believability of the fact that this big guy can be beaten by this small guy or small girl, whoever it is. But
Well, and the other thing too, honestly, is that men's matches tend to be a lot more intense, so a lot of things will look harder to. They look like things have a lot more impact. Whereas, honestly, like, I really, really think Riho's a good wrestler, but the problem is her up against Rose, basically none of her attacks look like they should be doing any damage. Because a lot of the women, and this is not meant to be like an anti-women sort of thing here, it's just a lot of the moves that these girls do don't look like they're inflicting damage. It looks more like it's ballet, like rehearsed dance moves. Because a lot of the times it doesn't look like they're hitting, which is a big problem.
I think that in general, women's wrestling, something that's very difficult with, again, like you said, this is not me going into an incel crusade, but the fact that a lot of the moves aren't hard hitting because they're just simply aren't hitting each other hard, and they're not running the ropes with that kind of viciousness. Usually, they're kind of the Japanese women are usually I guess
Well, but what they also do, too, is they also have a lot of technical wrestling. Like, you even saw in the Riho Emi Sakura match in those last 5 minutes.
Right.
Like, that was a technical masterpiece. Whereas, if you're just having a strike fest with most of the girls on this roster, it's not going to look that great.
Yeah.
I mean, you put Statlander and Rose, now that's a match I want to see, because that's two bigger women. And Statlander looks like she put some real impact in her moves, too. So I think that would be an interesting match. I would love to see that if that's her first title defense. Because I'm assuming Statlander's going to win, to be honest.
I think just the biggest issue, and we've talked about the women's division a lot, and I mentioned this a couple days ago, is they need that Jon Moxley. They need that big crossover star from some other company to make this, or some big name like that to make an impact, not just some,
And unfortunately, Tessa Blanchard ain't leaving.
Yeah, Tessa Blanchard's going to be the new champ in the world champion in Impact, and, like I said, another name I said, Tennille Dashwood. I don't know what the hell she's doing.
She was in AEW at one point. She was in the Battle Royal.
She was in the Battle Royal, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I'd like to see more of her from a. I loved Emma, the Emma character. I thought she was great when she was doing that, even though the ending kind of sucked. But I think that all in all, I think that they just need that star power really to make it feel like there's a big dog. Not Roman Reigns, an actual big dog who's on the hunt, and some huge name who's shaking up the division. That I think.
And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the division is terrible. Like but it's not nearly on the same par as everything else is running right now. And that's why we end up talking about it more being in a negative aspect than the rest, because honestly, everything's on all cylinders when it comes to the men's singles and the tag team stuff. So when the women's is like, let's say the men's in the tag teams are like running at an A-, like B+ level, the women are running at a C+. It's not like it's a bad grade, but it's just noticeably less.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's beginning to take steps. I think this week was a good indication of that.
Well, I mean, Hikaru Shida fucking Falcon Arrow Nyla Rose, so I was pretty happy with that.
And they were telegraphing that early in the match, too. And to your point about like moves not hitting as effectively, that was what was kind of cool, is that they were using each other as weapons at one point, because Riho suplexed Shida into Nyla, and like her feet went right into her face.
Yep.
And like, to your point, Joe, I think that... I think that's right. I mean, that's obviously when you're building a company from the ground up, that's something you want. You want an established star in there that helps. And, contracts aside, or the Tessa Blanchard situation aside, sometimes that might be difficult. But I've admired to date that, in spite of criticisms like ours and thoughts that we've given on it, and certainly people on the internet and other parts of the community, I've admired that they are trying to build it ground up, and that they are trying to establish some of these people. Obviously, none of them have been totally breakout yet. Although I will say, like, Riho is super over. Like, when she comes out, everyone in the arena is standing up and going out. Like, people love her.
She is definitely hitting all the check marks with the anime fans.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know if that's really a good thing.
She is waifu wrestling tier right now with those fans.
Yeah, no, maybe for the wrong reasons. We'll leave it there.
Well, I mean, she tiny.
She tiny.
But I mean, otherwise, they're doing the right things. They're being patient, and they're trying different things. So that they're doing what they should be doing in a division that hasn't found its footing yet. It's just one of those things where we're going to criticize what we think is working and what isn't, and that's the downside of it being something that's in a trial period, is that you're going to hear a lot more negatives with this than with the men's singles, where everything is really clicking right now.
Right.
But otherwise, it was a good match. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was bad. I still think there were a couple matches better, but it is what it is. We had, right after that, we had Joey Janela doing a random interview. I'm not sure why that happened. Just to have Penelope Ford low blow him, and then Kip Sabian just shows up. That was it.
Yeah.
We already mentioned the Dark Order stuff, so we move on then to Jon Moxley against Trent. I was actually really surprised on how good this one was. It almost felt like, if you guys have ever watched any of the New Japan stuff, it looks like what happens when they have the two big guys like just constantly hitting each other as hard as they can, like an Ishii Makabe.
Yeah, they were
match.
working really stiff with those chops, for sure.
They were. Like, especially the first 5 minutes, all those hits, chops, and clotheslines, like that reminded me of what, in the early days of the Never Openweight title for New Japan, where it was just basically like the strong style title for a while. That's what it reminded me of. Just these hard-hitting, like Ishii, Makabe, Shibata, Elgin, like all those guys just smacking the shit out of each other.
Yeah, some guys run to the ropes and then do like a drop kick. Like they drop down and do a drop kick to a guy in the sit-up position. Moxley did like a running drop clothesline that looked awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That was probably my favorite move of the match. Was that right there? Moxley's been pretty damn busy. As what man's been doing.
He's racking up
stuff.
bodies.
Yeah, just won the U.S. US
he wrestled this morning. That's right.
Yeah, he did wrestle this morning. Yeah.
Oh, there's my one spoiler.
Oh shit. Well,
that's all right. It's Lance Archer. I'm not exactly that interested.
My bad.
But we had a face-off. Speaking of Moxley facing off with people, he had a quick face-off with Orange Cassidy.
That was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he put his own hands in the pockets.
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
I want an Orange Cassidy, Jon Moxley hands in pockets match now.
Oh yeah, we need
Orange
that.
Cassidy versus Jon Moxley death match.
I was wondering why John was wearing pants, and I became clear, just so we could do that.
Well,
stupid.
to be fair, if he had no pockets, he just would have put his hands in his pants anyway.
Yeah, that's true. He's a
like,
bad
fuck it.
man, Majama.
Apparently, from like people that were at the arena tweeting, like apparently Orange Cassidy gets like a Elvis and the Beatles style like reception when he comes out. Like he.
Oh, legit! You listen to the entrance,
Yeah.
like people pop for the best friends, and then when Orange Cassidy comes out, he gets
People
progressively
lose their
louder.
fucking minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
here
like-
was everybody thinking, "Oh, this guy's a failure. He's not going to get over. No one's going to give a shit." And here he is. He's probably the most over person in the company, next to Cody and
It's
Jericho.
really hard to say otherwise. Yeah.
Like, honestly,
I
if I
put
was putting
Mox
like a
on.
top 5 in terms of pops, I would put Bucks at 5, Luchasaurus at 4, Orange Cassidy at 3, Jericho 2, Cody 1 right now.
I think that's.
I'm putting Moxley somewhere on that list over the Young Bucks even maybe. I think Moxley may be getting consistent.
And yeah, I mean, 10 to 6 is exactly like pretty much tied with 5 anyway. There's
Right.
a lot of guys that are in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, a really good match. Moxley did beat Trent with a paradigm shift. I know, shocking there that Moxley wouldn't lose to half of a tag team, but you know. Sammy comes out. He comes out in the crowd like Moxley says, "Hey, I get it," and he starts like stealing, obviously plants, but he starts stealing people's drinks and popcorn and throwing shit everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He comes out. Moxley immediately grabs a chair because he's not fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So Jericho comes on screen. He offers Moxley, because obviously they were teasing that he was trying to get him to join the Inner Circle. He offers him 49% and an executive vice president status of the Inner Circle, because that's not a shot at anybody. And what apparently was a Ford GT worth millions of dollars, which I know a little bit about cars, and I know that car, unless you've souped that thing up to Kingdom Come, is not worth millions of dollars. So Jericho's kind of a little overselling it, but you know,
Probably for
Worth a
comedic
good
effect.
amount. Yeah.
I mean, it's still more. It still costs more than I'll ever make in my fucking life. It's like a $500,000+ car.
$500,000. Yeah. With the Mox custom plate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the real seller right there.
I was glad they got
Should have
Jericho
had
on
barbed
the show,
wire.
because obviously we know
If
he's
he really
traveling
wanted to
Japan
sell him
too.
the car, he should have had a barbed wire friggin' decal on the car.
Or wrapped barbed wire around the spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But otherwise, nothing really came out of it. I was actually really disappointed that Moxley's like, "Oh, I'm going to give my answer in person next week," and the fans clearly were not happy about it.
Whatever.
I totally agree.
I like it,
yeah.
though.
But there's a reason. There's a reason.
yeah.
Jericho was already heading to Japan at that point, so
Yeah, and you can't
I
can't hit Jericho with the paradigm shift if he's not in the ring, right? So
Yeah, I agree. I think it did seem a little carny to me. The whole idea of telling us that this was going to happen at the last minute, it not happening. If you knew that Jericho was going to be going over to Japan, don't tell us that Jon Moxley was going to go and try to accept this challenge this week. You know, there's still time before Revolution. You can book this. You can hype this match up after this whole Wrestle Kingdom stuff is over. So don't say, oh, he's gonna accept it, knowing that he won't. That's some WWE shit. That kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where, you know, as much as we like to talk about how good this company's doing right now, they're gonna make some really stupid mistakes too because it's still a new thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the Statlander thing. They should have known ahead of time that this was going to be an issue. So it's one of those things that, I mean, it's not like it's killing us. It's not a deal breaker. I mean, obviously they managed to come through with the women's match pretty well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you still had a decent promo from Jericho with the car and everything. So I mean, you got something. But that was a little bit disappointing, for sure.
I think if I were to argue the devil's advocate of it, I like it because, I think the scheduling thing factors into it a little bit. Obviously, they didn't try to draw attention to it again on the show. We only know that because they said it on the last episode before Christmas. But I like the way Moxley responds to it, right? He says, I've always respected Chris Jericho and considered him a friend and a mentor. I owe him the respect to tell him this in person. I mean, that Moxley's not going to accept this. It's going to set up a title match. But still, it builds a bit of believability into why he would push it off.
Well, we're going to know how soon that title match is, depending on how today's match with Tanahashi and Moxley goes. Or Tanahashi and Jericho.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you think Tanahashi would supersede Moxley in getting the title shot first?
Ooh, that's tough. It depends, because
I don't know.
I don't know if they'd even do it on AEW television, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked if this was going to just happen at the... what would be the next major show? I guess maybe it could have been at a beginning in Osaka if they do that, or they could do it later on, but...
Oh, so you think that he's going to defend the AEW title in New Japan?
I think it would be... Like, here's the thing, and I don't know if we'll get to this at the end of the show, because we probably won't have enough time to go head on to it, so we'll probably do it on the next episode, but straight up, if there is a relationship with AEW New Japan forming, and let's say Tanahashi actually does win, so he's earned a title shot, I think it's very smart for AEW as a good gesture to let them defend that title on one of their shows.
Yeah, I mean, they do that.
It's their way of showing, hey, if we're going to have some of your guys come over here, let's at least give you a title match with our belt, with our champion, to show that, hey, we're willing to give you guys for a big show.
That's true. I think also, though, it would be awesome to see Tanahashi in the AEW ring just back in America.
Well, I think it's their way of going, if they did this, by the way, it would be their way of saying, like, hey, okay, we've given you a big thing, because you know that if Jericho's on a Tanahashi match, let's say it's beginning in Osaka, just as an example, because that's the next show that they usually do. That's something that, because New Japan no longer has a show on Access in the States, this is a way for them to get some couple more buys with New Japan World, get some more eyes on the product, and then it can be like, all right, now you owe us something, and whether that's having Tanahashi show up or maybe even Okada coming down for a match, you never know.
Right.
I think they're heading into Revolution being Moxley and Jericho, where perhaps that's when we see the first title change of that belt.
When is I don't know too much about New Japan. When is the beginning in Osaka? When
Usually it's a February show, if I'm not mistaken.
So would that would be after Revolution?
Revolution starts on the 29th.
Okay.
So let's see. When was beginning of Osaka last time? Yeah, it's usually early February that they do the beginning shows. So last year, or I guess technically last year, beginning in Osaka was the 11th of February. So they could definitely fit it.
So we're gonna get a AEW Revolution title match between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jon Moxley. Is that what's gonna happen?
No, what I think will probably happen is Jericho will win. He'll get his win back, because assuming that Tanahashi wins, Jericho will get his win back. You can set up a rubber match even on an AEW show if there is a relationship. Mm-hmm. But I think obviously I would be shocked if the main event of Revolution is not Moxley Jericho for the title.
I think that's what.
I think too, if we're not getting too much into the relationship because we want to talk about some other stuff. But real quick, if there is any relationship, it would be from Gato's guys like Jericho and Tanahashi, these people who he seems to truly respect and truly have fondness and a good relationship with. I think those are the people who are going to build it, not necessarily the Kenny Omegas or the Young Bucks, who he seems to not be too fond of right about now. I think it would. Well,
if there's a happy relationship again, I don't think they'd have any problems. I think it's just one of those things where it's battle scars that got to kind of get mended.
Right.
Otherwise, it's one of those things that if it's worth for everybody in terms of money, in terms of getting, a better show, better quality. Like, I think it's in the best interest of everybody. And it's not like these guys haven't worked with the Okadas and the Naitos and all these guys for a while, and they obviously have good relationships with them. It's just the way that the company kind of treated them on the way out, I think.
Right.
But going back to the show, so the next thing we had Sammy up against Dustin Rhodes, which, again, every time I see Dustin Rhodes now wrestling, I'm thinking, holy shit, the guy's having a massive resurgence. The guy did a fucking Canadian Destroyer on the apron.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And I mean, the match as a whole was really good for the way that they ran it. Obviously, very unlikely the face actually came up from behind the heel during his entrance to attack him before the bell. I like that bit of fire showing that Rhodes, he's going to be taking some names after getting his arm
Well, they've
broken.
jumped him so many times, right? So it's kind of poetic, yeah.
Exactly. Obviously, Hager shows up because, you can't have the shit-eating grin heel on his own for an entire match. That wasn't going to happen.
No, and obviously I think, like, we're talking about things they're building for Revolution. I think that's where we will see Dustin against Hager, finally.
Oh, 100%. Everybody was like, man, he's got to be Luchasaurus first. It's like, no, man, Luchasaurus Hager is what you build to. That's like your big build to, like, say, All Out this year. That's what I look at.
Right.
Yeah, you can tease
agree.
it longer.
I mean,
well, and technically, the Rhodes thing has been in the coming longer because that happened before they did the face-off in the ring. When they broke
but
his
I think
arm.
people were also teasing that, and people immediately just went, "Oh shit, I got to see Luchasaurus and Hager." It's like, give it time. We're really trying to build Lucha as a star. Like, this is a guy that I could see holding the title if he can keep himself healthy.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely down the road.
But like you said, like, Dustin's resurgence has been great, and he's so over that, he loses a lot, but they do it in ways that it works. Obviously, Sammy going over here with Hager interference is good to build that long term, and they tease it right in the middle of the match, right? They're facing off outside, and you hear Dustin go, "You want to do this now?" And they're kind of slowly advancing on each other, and then Sammy jumps out and drop kicks him and breaks it up.
Yep.
And then does that.
So speaking of Sammy,
he does the Spanish God pose in the ring. The best thing I've seen since the
that
Spinneroonie.
wasn't what I was talking about. The guy basically had a massive wedgie at the end of the match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could see
I'm
them
like,
cheeks.
oh shit, Sammy's wearing panties now on his fucking ass. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know why Dustin kept spanking him during the match either. He kept doing that, and I think that was making the wedgie situation a little worse.
Yeah.
I mean, look, anybody attracted to men, they enjoyed that match.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I can't
or
say
the
that
female
it was
fans,
my
but
thing.
yeah, no, it was good. It's
Yeah.
another good way for Sammy to get those numbers.
I'm not saying as a bisexual man I wasn't staring at his ass for a little bit at the end of that match, but
yeah.
He's in good
I mean,
shape.
If you were, teach your own.
Did you guys?
But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm starting to get annoyed. Like, I love Bryce Remsburg, but I'm starting to think that he's like having the gimmick as the referee that misses everything.
Yes, the dumbest man alive. Yeah.
Like, he goes to stop the unnatural kick, which is technically not an illegal move because he's not low blowing the guy. He's kicking the turnbuckle into, because atomic drops are legal, so why wouldn't the unnatural kick be legal?
Right.
So he stops that, and then Sammy grabs him, and then Hager low blows him, and then Sammy just rolls him up. I'm like, I love you, Bryce, but fuck, man, you gotta talk to the office and get rid of this shitty referee gimmick you got going on.
Well,
Yeah, he's the worst referee of all time.
Like, I thought we were making that joke with Rick Knox on being the elite. It seems like Bryce is trying to take that role.
Yeah.
I like that Sammy got the win though, because he
otherwise-
didn't have a great 2019 in that regard. So,
Well, I think that was the point too. He was supposed to be the guy in the inner circle that's kind of meant to be the punching bag too.
I think
right?
he'll beat Daniels next week too. So I think he's going to start the year on.
I fully expect that if there's a mid card title, he's in the hunt for
I
it.
think so for sure. Yeah.
I would be
can see a
I would
world
be
title
shocked
run
if he
for him.
wasn't even the first champion because I kind of feel like the inner circle needs a belt because I'm not sure. I mean, I guess you could still assume that Pride and Powerful is going to be the next
Oh,
tag
you better
champs.
believe
That's
it,
kind
baby.
of where they're leaning.
They're going to go full evolution. They're going to have all the belts. It's going to be great.
I mean, if they announce the new belt and it's going to be defended or it's going to be vacated and fought for a Revolution, then you're going to know that there might be an inner circle full win. That's when I suddenly think, shit, Moxley might not win this match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I like this match though. It was
speaking
good.
of,
It was physical. I liked every match tonight. but
speaking of
this one was
things-
good, too.
Speaking of things that were all fucked up, like Sammy's trunks, the little private party thing where Hangman just randomly walks in and starts, fucking pouring himself obviously a shit ton of whiskey.
Orange Jack. Yeah.
I kind of like it. I kind of like this. We'll get to the end of the show, but this kind of this Hangman who's kind of going off the rails, as I said to you guys one time in the chat here, it's the most interested I've been in him in a very long time. I think that it adds this kind of depth to his character that, wow, Hangman's really letting himself go. All these losses, kind of all his friends, in a way, kind of losing or deserting him somehow. It makes him interesting. He's a broken man, and becoming a broken man, he's going to do broken things.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what I said when we were talking about it too earlier, is that if you can't do the cowboy shit thing forever, because eventually that one-dimensional gimmick is going to get old at some point. Like, you can only come on a horse so many times where people are like, all right, it's the fucking horse.
Yeah.
So at least if you start saying, oh, he's a fucking drunk too, it's like, oh, so this could be funny.
Yeah. Right.
Like, just him on commentary, just sitting there looking all like, I don't give a fuck to what's going on, and he's just holding this glass of whiskey.
That was the best part of the night. But yeah, he turns to look into the camera, and the cryon pops
and
up.
He looks, he's completely dead-eyed.
Yeah. Hangman Adam Page has been drinking. Yeah.
Yup.
I almost teared up
That was
laughing.
great.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
That's the other thing too. They're doing a great job
too.
with the fucking graphic boards, because they're not being afraid of having some fun with it too.
Yeah, and specifically his have all been very good. Yeah. And I liked the shirt he was rocking.
Yeah, that too. Before we get to that match, obviously, that he was commentating for, well, I guess, like, drinking for.
We have one more segment
you
to
had
talk
MJF
about.
coming out to give his stipulations.
Yes, we did. This was the best segment of the night, I thought.
I'm a little bit weirded out by this, and I'll tell you why. So when we got the order, he said, okay, there are 3 stipulations. Obviously, he said this match will be at Revolution, and if Cody touches MJF anytime before then, the match is never going to happen.
Right.
That's basic shit. You want to keep the heat up so that the heel can get away with whatever he wants for the next, 2 months. Makes sense.
Right.
100% behind that. Then he says, number 2, you got to beat somebody first to get this in. And he's like, you're going to have to beat Wardlow. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And you're going to have to do it in a steel cage for the first time in AEW. I'm like, all right, I like this. I'm good. What's the third? I got to whip you 10 times.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That seems a little bit too easy. No, I mean, I know it's hit Cody's ego that he's got to deal with 10 whips, but it's like, Cody is that desperate that he was willing to give away everything he has. What's 10 whips to him?
Yeah, I think it was a very weird. It almost came off that they were just thinking of a third thing, and they were like, I guess whips. I guess, right? People don't like being
like
whipped.
the fact that there's not even a stipulation if he loses that match with MJF. That's what's shocking to me.
Right.
We'll see.
I thought for sure that they were going to do something. It's like, hey, you got to kiss my ring, because that's the whole reason he has that ring. Because Cody used to have the ROH world title as a ring, and he made people kiss it.
Interesting.
So I thought that was the point of MJF having that diamond ring.
I see.
Is that he would make Cody kiss the ring.
The strap thing is weird, because it makes you like, what is this, like the 1860s or Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Is it Tommy Dreamer getting hit by the Sandman with a kendo stick?
And they better gimmick that belt too, because otherwise it'll fuck his back up something awful. Cody,
for sure.
Cody's gonna look like a goddamn
feel like
chopping
they
board by the end of AEW.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I mean, it won't look as bad as his eye did.
That's what
after
I'm
that
thinking,
fucking
right?
match
Like,
he had with,
bit by bit of him is getting screwed up. But I agree with you. It kind of came out of left field, but I think
he's going to look like Sabu at the end of his AEW career the way he's going.
But I bet they will find a way to make that segment work, and I think that segment.
Oh, they'll definitely do it, because Cody and MJF can make it work. It's just a strange third stipulation.
Sure. But it's a pride thing. He wants to see him laid low. He wants to inflict the pain on him. He'll probably do it with Cody's weight belt, although, as I said, hopefully a gimmicked weight belt. And it'll be the one they do last. I bet the Wardlow-Cody thing will happen before the whip thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Either way, it's just one of those things that's like, man, like, if you're thinking about it from a story purpose, Cody, like I said, he's literally wanted to give him everything to get that match. He doesn't give a fuck.
Right.
So it's like 10 whips seems like a pretty innocuous thing.
I don't know.
It's like it's embarrassing, but that's how desperate Cody is to fight this guy.
I think
Cody was going to give him his watch, his jacket, his money, his everything. Right. So yeah, a little bit of pain so we could beat the shit out of MJF.
He was willing to give his fucking car that had a Hylian Shield keychain on
Right.
it. Like that's some good shit.
But I think the point of that, if we're getting into the meat and bones of it, is that inflicting the pain is more important to him, because as MJF said, he doesn't need the money. This is a strictly personal thing to him. I think you boys will change your minds on that stipulation by the time it comes up.
I won't change my mind that it was that it was a weird choice, but I'll obviously like the segment. That's how I look.
And I like the other thing.
It's just one of those things that I feel so weird about a match that supposedly has like these kind of stakes, but there's no if you lose stipulation.
Sure. Well, we'll see. I also like the killing two birds with one stone, We get to see what Wardlow can do, and we get to see it in a steel cage.
Yeah, the first steel
Which
cage
is
in
probably
AEW.
for the best because I bet you that Wardlow can't do that
We'll
much.
see. Yeah, I mean, it looks like he might be pretty stiff, but you never know. I've been surprised by guys that size before.
What I figure he'll be is what early days of Batista was when he was first on the fray. Like he just does a lot of power moves, and that's about it.
Have you guys
So
seen...
putting him in a cage, it works because you can just have him throw him into the cage constantly, so it can slow it down.
Right.
Have you boys seen any of Wardlow's indie work? Because I've seen absolutely
No,
nothing.
neither have I. I'm sure there might be someone.
I'd never heard of the guy,
I
so
did a YouTube
Yeah.
and see if there are matches now. Actually,
I'm also curious as to, this is an aside, but why it took them so long to debut him? Was it just because they were trying to figure out what to do with him? Because they aired that vignette for him. Was that... I almost want to say it was a Double or Nothing.
it was either Double or Nothing or his
Yeah.
Fyre Fest.
no, it was all.
Yeah,
it was
it
all,
was
or maybe
very
they.
early
So
on.
I didn't see those. So if they did air it on those, then that would have been the first time. But the first time I saw it was on All Out, which was on August 31st, and then obviously they weren't on.
But keep in mind too,
They
that,
weren't on
like,
TV for 2 months.
They
after
obviously
that. And
they weren't on TV, and I mean, look, I guarantee you they've already figured out what they're doing with Marty Scurll.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've heard that the only reason he's been doing these things like an NWA and stuff right now is because they're just not ready to do what they're ready to do with him. So it sounds to me like they've figured out what they needed to be doing. So with Wardlow, it's probably just like, well, we know where we want to go with him. Let's just kind of let's tease him, and that way people remember him when he shows up. Because that was the thing. When he showed up, I knew exactly who it was. Like at least because I have enough of an attention span that I can remember that. I'm sure a lot of people didn't.
Sure, and they took some time to debut him, and like we were saying right before we went on the air, when they rushed John Morrison back for the sake of it, rather than on WWE, rather than not pacing it. They took their time with it. Also, as a sidebar, so there's a 20-minute match between Wardlow and Damian Priest on YouTube that I'm going to watch.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to watch when we're done recording, and we can see next week what we think of his wrestling style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually,
any last thoughts on that?
yes, I do. We kind of carted before the horse, but just he comes out, he kisses the girl, he throws the guy's hat. He's mimicking high five.
in the commercial
he does
break,
a
yeah.
full heel segment, not on TV or in the picture-in-picture. He comes out and is a shit heel for like a full 5 to 6 minutes, where he's not even on full camera, and it's just again, I love this guy. I think we're not doing an award for who I think will have the biggest year this year, and whether that's winning the title or not. But I love MJF.
No, I think he's 2 years out. I think both him and Hangman Page are 2 years out because, at least the way that I look at it, as a whole, I think AEW is doing what they should be doing with their titles and is not giving them up quickly.
Which is that's right. I would put Sammy in the same category as those guys, and those are all kind of the young up and comers who will be the future.
Well, that's the thing too. Jericho's got 3 years. Obviously, Kenny is in his mid-30s, so who knows how long he can go for. And you still got all these other guys too that can easily take some spots in there. Like you have Pentagon and Phoenix who could both
be
do
champions
something very
as
well
singles
in that.
wrestlers.
You've got Moxley. You've got there's a bunch of guys that you can go with.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to focus on a good select 5 or 6 guys, and you build and build and build guys like Page and Guevara and, like you said, MGF, so that when Jericho finally starts to pull himself back, when Omega has his good run, and maybe he starts to kind of fizzle out or he needs a break so he can kind of recuperate, and Cody's done his bit, you have a good couple of guys that, assuming this company's still around 5 years later, that you are like, oh shit, this is our 10-year future.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's only and
So
MJF's
everybody
only
that's
23.
like, man, MJF is going to be champion this year. I would be shocked if he's champion of anything aside from
I don't think
this
so.
year.
But I just mean
maybe even the following.
I think he
year.
will have a big year though.
He will have a big year
I
for
think
sure.
he will have a huge
But
year.
again,
and
I think all of this is groundwork so that when he finally wins the big title, that reign is going to be long.
I do, no, it definitely will be. I do wonder, you're talking about the mid-card title, what the holdup is on announcing or introducing it. Is it just them not knowing, where it fits in the grand scheme of things? Because they have a ton of guys out on TV, and, it does go back to the whole idea of AEW not wanting to overexpose guys.
If I was a betting man, I would say they're
week.
trying to finish up storylines and kind of build a couple more people up so that they have, say, a tournament they can do where everybody's viable.
I bet you'll see a final for it at Double or Nothing, or they'll do a TV tournament. In the spring.
This is just me guessing what I figure because of how much time we have between now and Revolution. I think after Revolution they'll do a King of the Ring level tournament, so you'll have guys like Guevara, Hangman Page, and maybe MJF, maybe not, depending on what they want to do with him. You can have like a Luchasaurus, or you can throw Jungle Boy in there. You can throw Sean Spears in there, Joey Janela, Kip Sabian. So you get like a good chunk of guys.
Yeah.
And maybe even you throw one surprise spot in there, and maybe somebody debuts that we haven't seen yet. Because I'm so convinced we've only seen maybe 75% of who's coming that they've already figured out. So I think there might still be at least one person they can throw in there.
I think MJF needs to go over in this match. I think this was the mistake they made.
What for the title or
no,
or against Cody?
I think this was the mistake they made with Spears, and it killed his heat. Is that I thought he should have gone over Cody too.
Yeah, I think the problem is I think even Spears himself kind of realizes that I don't think his role is meant to be, anywhere near the top, unless they do like what I think they might try to do with now that they got Tully and Arn in the same spot. They might try a new Four Horsemen.
Yeah, that'd be
maybe
cool.
You can do something with that because again, Tully's trying to find him a teammate too. Remember that,
yeah.
So you never know. There might be a faction possibly forming.
But I thought he had such heat after the chair shot thing, and like you're right, like maybe they were never going to elevate him like that. And as we said, MJF they're not going to elevate him that high this soon. But to keep the heat like on a guy like that who is so good at generating it naturally, I do think whether it's dirty or not, like I want him to go over Cody in this match.
I mean, keep in mind too, he showed up at Double or Nothing just in part of the Battle Royal, and he wasn't signed. So I don't think they had massive plans for him right away, which is why they kind of shoehorn him in, put him in a big angle, they kind of get him over, and then they kind of figure, okay, well, we haven't actually figured anything out for you yet, so we'll kind of build you.
He's been, other than the Janela thing, he's been more or less fluctuating since.
Yeah.
He's been boring. I mean, quite frankly, just to put it simply, same problem I was having with Adam Page almost. It's just boring, nothing. Adam Page has been doing more. But yeah, as you said, they killed his heat. He started off, with the chair shot heard around the world, and
that's the problem. Like, I don't know if I could necessarily say boring's the right word. I think it's just he's immobile,
underutilized.
Yeah,
he's just kind of he's a car on a roundabout right now, and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, because he looks physically awesome, and he is a good wrestler, and he was good when they had him on Dark doing commentary. Like he's a talented guy.
Well, dude, even just the look on his eyes, like that's a great badass.
When that happened at All Out, I thought that was awesome. Yeah, when Tully pulled the thing back and he had the all white contact lenses in.
I agree.
Yeah,
like badass.
So we drifted away from Dynamite a little bit too long there.
Oh, that's all right.
So let's finish off that, and then we can get to our year-end awards. Yes. But we had the main event being the Elite, that being Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks going up against the Lucha Brothers and Pac. So let's go to the usual segment. Let's go to the what Phoenix did in this match that made people go fucking crazy. So go right to it.
He did the rope trick as usual, but it ended with a Hurricane Rana on Nick Jackson. And then the other big spot was when he rolled, hit a double cutter on the Bucks, rolled under Kenny's elbow, and cuttered him.
Yep, and then there was finally at the end of the match, which, I mean, the Elite won, like we said at the top of the show, the Elite won all their matches. He goes for that big spinning kick off the top of the rope, and Kenny just fucking nailed him with a V-trigger.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah. Even in a couple of the matches, even in a couple of the moves he didn't hit or got reversed, he still looked super athletic, because there was the move you just described, Adam, and there was another kick he did like that where he missed, and then the Bucks double super kicked him. So even when he's getting his ass kicked or he's selling, he still looks like $1 million.
It looks so good.
This was a great match. Bell to bell. This was good.
So going back to Hangman and that really amazing looking sweater. So yeah, he was on commentary, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there, not mentally, but physically his body was there.
I don't know if you guys heard it because the audio was in and out, but there's a really funny part where I think JR says something about like Phoenix or like the Lucha Brothers and the Bucks. He's like, I don't know if there's anybody I'd rather watch in the ring. And then you just hear Adam Page go, thanks, JR.
That's really funny.
I remember that, yep. That's the thing, too. The banner is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one, when you listen to, like, any of the WWE shows, again, I'm really trying not to shit on them. Aside from NXT, but you watch any of the main roster stuff, when there's banter, it feels so fake.
Yeah. Corey Graves going on these 19-minute long tangents about nothing.
Well, and Page was...
That's the thing. Corey Graves has also just kind of died off on me.
Yeah.
He's been a real dick to people on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have seen, but
yeah, that also doesn't help. But it's one of those things where, like, I thought that he was going to be like the next Bobby Heenan, and then he started getting a little too
comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
So he started being a little less funny, so much as he just started just being a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, now you're basically turning into like what Michael Cole used to be.
Right, and he's not a heel commentator. He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But that's the thing, when we going back to AEW, when they have these little conversations, like, it's funny. Like, some of them are genuinely, like, you almost, like, burst out loud and forget what's going on for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think JR has hit some ridiculously... It was JR, again, going back to his podcast, listening to it. He's a funny motherfucker, JR, and some of the shit that comes out of his mouth is...
Well, the guy doesn't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. When you get to an older age, your tolerance level just goes down and down, or down and down, so you're just like, fuck it, I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah, your give a shit meter drains rather quickly.
Well, and Paige was smart.
Whereas Tony's just happy to see wrestling again that's not shit. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Tony basically gets to work with MLW and AEW. He's on fucking cloud 9 right now.
Oh, yeah. There's no finger pokes of doom.
Yeah, those were some pretty lean years for Tony when he was still on commentary in like 2000 and 2001. That would be weird. That would have been like sitting on the deck of the Titanic, broadcasting it going under the water.
Yep, watching it fall.
And Paige was good in this because he didn't talk.
Yeah.
Like, if he didn't think he had something to say, he didn't talk. Well, and they were also trying to sell that he was drunk, right? So.
Yeah. Like, that was the entire match for it. Was just, like, obviously over-the-top shit, and then every once in a while just Paige just coming in with, like, almost solid gold just to kind of add something.
I think it's also kind of funny, too, harkening back to the Private Party Hangman Page segment, how even Private Party, who have the shirts that, say, this ain't water, they even are like, this Brody needs to chill.
We're worried about
these
you,
guys, yeah, we're worried about you. Very funny. These guys, are self-proclaimed party animals, who their blood is, full of...
well, yeah, but they're drinking stuff that you can at least go for a little while. He's drinking the hard shit right off the bat.
Yeah, whiskey, yeah, right. They will have them. Yeah, it's some cowboy shit. Yeah, some bourbon to calm down damn nerves, fella.
Well, and you're probably sitting there being like, he probably ran out of his Texas Mickey, so he's fucking trying to find another bottle.
And like Paige said at one point, he's like, yeah, these guys are close. They've got it together. Like they're teasing that he's gonna, they're teasing the blow up between him and Kenny. We'll see if it happens next week against Private Party. My thought is probably yes, that or they'll tease it one more week, but it's coming. Now,
here's an interesting idea. What would you think if Hangman Page was part of the Nightmare Collective?
That'd be cool.
I would have to see what Hangman Page's character would be like in that weird pseudo goth cult type of thing. How he would adapt.
I guarantee you, it would just be insanity.
Would he shave his head?
So he'd be almost like what Stan Hansen used to do.
Okay.
Where he'd just be running around in the crowd with a bull rope trying to whip the shit out of everybody.
I could see him being the almost. This is a very weird comparison, pardon me, but almost the Al Snow, which is this character who has lost his goddamn mind and is just fucking everything up. Which
I do a more recent thing. You could make him like R-Truth, where he's just like he's talking to himself constantly.
Yeah. I love that type of shit in wrestling. My favorite type of thing in wrestling archetype is the nutcase. I think that the kind of talking about AEW as a whole, they don't. I mean, they have guys who are hard hitting, who fight rough, aren't afraid to go hardcore, but they don't have any just straight up nutcases.
Well, I mean, you have Moxley.
Yeah.
Moxley, but he's not like deranged. He's violent.
He's chaotic neutral.
He's chaotic neutral. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah, but we need someone who's like mentally ill. I think.
I mean, technically the spooky perverts fall into that category too. So
I
maybe
suppose
Hangman Page is the exalted.
That's gonna be my nickname for them, like from here to forever now. Mm-hmm. And and to your point,
you got new. Okay, we need this New Japan AEW relationship now because we need Jay White and the Dark Order, so we have the knife pervert and the spooky perverts.
Synergy.
Ooh.
And you put them together and you call them the Twisted Trio.
Okay. To your point on Page, though, Joe, whatever they do with him next, I think is a breath of fresh air because he does need to turn heel or he does need to do something new.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was obvious anyway. I mean, I've still been sitting here thinking Kenny needs a heel turn, but it depends on what they want to do with him, too. They've kind of cooled off on his going crazy thing now, and Hangman's kind of picked up that slack, so maybe they thought... Because I still feel like they were planning to turn Kenny heel, and maybe they just figured, you know what, let's try this with Hangman first, see how this works, and we'll keep Kenny face, so that way we still have a pretty big name that can, maybe fight him at some point.
Yeah, when you guys have watched more New Japan and Ring of Honor than I have Kenny and Hangman fought before?
I don't know about that one.
Not that I know of. If they did, it would have been like on Ring of Honor or something. It would have been on a small scale.
So that'd be a good match. I look forward to that. I look forward to him against
they
the Bucks.
They were always together in New Japan because Hangman was brought in as a part of the Bullet Club and Kenny was at the helm.
Right, so I think that would be cool.
what I think is very interesting is that they, as going back to what you were saying, they were teasing the fact back in the match with Moxley that he was going to go full cleaner. They were kind of teasing that a little bit. Whether
Well,
it
he
was
had
on
the broom with the barbed wire. So
the broom with the barbed wire. Yeah, but I mean, he never really went heel with it, right? He just kind of, he used it. That's what was interesting to me, is that, which I kind of do like the dichotomy of it, where he doesn't need to be that man all the time. He only needs to be that man when he's faced with a challenge like Moxley, which forces him
It'd be
into
cool
that
if he
type of
had
thing.
like, I don't know, he almost being like a bipolar wrestler where he has like his normal nerdy self and then he has the cleaner.
Yep,
Kind of like what Finn Balor is with the Demon.
Yeah, I agree.
That even wants me to have that New Japan relationship further so he can have the cleaner music when he needs it.
That would be insane.
Because have you ever heard his music in New Japan, Liam?
I think, did he use it at the show where he fought Cody on WrestleMania weekend? And it gets like really high pitched at the beginning.
I believe he would have. Yeah, where it sounds almost like a supervillain entrance, like from Final Fantasy.
Yeah. So that he did.
Yeah,
he did use that a year ago in a match that I watched. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, no, I need that for when he has like his mental breakdowns and just goes all crazy.
For sure.
Because it's such perfect music for him. If he's ever the cleaner, his music now would just not fit.
I think you'll see it. I mean, I think it's like you talked about. It's a long-term storyline they'll build to, that on a long enough timeline.
Oh, it'll happen at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I just have to hope that all happens before I get drafted.
Yes, before you're sent to Tehran.
Yeah, before I'm sent into the throes of Iran. Hopefully, that happens before then.
What's the?
Well, speaking of,
how does the meme go?
Politically
Lord, forgive me,
debating
but
over
I'm back on my
things.
bullshit. So on a long enough timeline, you'll see Kenny do that again.
Yeah.
So speaking of politically debating over things, so let's now that we got to the end of the show, let's do our year-end awards here.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun. I feel like we need music. I feel like we need a. Dun, 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 dun.
Good enough. Good enough.
Put on your tuxedo t-shirts.
It's the
It's awards
dubbies.
time.
Look, that's the production value we have on this show. Okay.
Yep, top notch.
All right, Adam,
Top
you lead the
notch.
way. How do you want to do the categories?
All right, so let's do the single awards first, and then we'll do matches because obviously we can expand a little bit more on those. So I want to start with our tag team of, well, I guess technically the half year, because realistically, I mean, there's been 4 pay-per-views and then television for what, since October?
2.5 months.
Yeah.
So realistically, I mean, it is AEW of the year awards, but realistically, it's AEW of the fall awards
Of 2019.
So is there anybody who thinks, because I feel like I should just put it out in the open, does anybody think Lucha Brothers aren't the tag team of the year? Because that's where I'm going.
I don't. I agree with you. Wow, I just had a stroke there. I agree with you fully. I think they're clear contenders. I know there's gonna be discussion about Young Bucks. There's gonna be discussion about maybe Proud and Powerful, but Lucha Brothers all the way.
What about you,
Are we
Liam?
picking this on who our favorites of the year were, or who we think were the best?
Oh, just it's your
Yes.
favorites.
So yeah, if we're doing that, then yes, 9 words. If I wasn't proud, then I wouldn't be powerful.
Interesting.
My favorite team. They had a super cool debut. They're awesome. I think they are the next tag team champions. I didn't put their match against the Bucks at Full Gear as one of my as I didn't list it as one of the ones I have here, but it was one of my favorite matches of the year. I like the way they sell. I like their offense. I think they're awesome. They are my tag team of the year, despite, as you said, having
realistically speaking, aside from really the Hybrid 2 and the Butcher and the Blade, like this entire tag team division could all perceivably be on this list.
Yeah, that's very true.
SCU's definitely earned it. Obviously, the Bucks would have earned it. Jurassic Express has come out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah,
and just
in terms of popularity, yeah.
Unreal. I think they actually could have won the award for me if Luchasaurus hadn't been injured for a little while, and we had a little bit more of him.
I'm also not a big. The only detriment to the Jurassic Express is I'm not a fan of Marco Stunt personally. Something about him really annoys me, and I don't know what it is. So there's that. But
look, he's got. I can guarantee you, it's the Rugrat tights because I think he needs new tights if he's going to be with Jurassic Express. He needs different tights.
It's either the Rugrat tights or the stupid floss shit that he does. That.
Well, yeah, well, you got to get the kids in there somewhere. If that's all they do to give kids something to watch, I'm okay with that. If it's just that, I'm good. Because WWE, what they do is a lot more challenging to get through.
Yeah. Joe, I will say
at least the flaw spot is 5 seconds out of your day.
That's true. That's fair enough, I guess.
Marco Stunt was on Jericho's podcast this week, and it was actually pretty good.
I haven't seen that one yet. I've been catching up on a lot of them. I
I
finally watched that Peter Avalon one. You're right. That one was pretty good.
It's pretty good,
yeah.
It might change your opinion of him.
I listened to the Peter Avalon. All right, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, but Lucha Brothers for me, it's been. I mean, it really just came down to who I enjoyed watching the most,
Right.
and I mean, to what we've said with Phoenix. I mean, it's really hard to bet against that guy, and Pentagon also being the absolute just endless vat of charisma that he is, even though I don't know the fucking language.
Yeah. I mean, Pentagon 2 had if we were doing this category, I'd say one of the spots of the year was that Canadian Destroyer off the ladder through the table, which I watched that with some friends of mine who aren't really wrestling fans at all. Or I shouldn't say it. They're lapsed, again, ruthless aggression era kids around my age who haven't really watched wrestling in a while. And I was watching it with them, and they didn't really know much about AEW, and they saw that, and they were like, "Holy fucking shit! What just happened?" They thought it was insane. So I think, they're just charisma machines, like you said, and Phoenix is a god-level athlete. So yeah, I definitely give this one to Lucha Brothers.
Well, hell, I'm going to call an audible then. What's the spot? Because I didn't even think about that. What's the spot? You obviously gave yours. So for me, I straight up immediately think about the Shawn Spears chair shot.
Well, I think I was using that one more as, I don't know if that would be the spot. I would go probably the spot for me would be the Kenny Omega, John Moxley, the barbed wire spider thing, which was the other thing that my friends who I was watching with who aren't into wrestling and weren't into AEW were like, "Oh my fucking god, we have to start watching this shit now because of that." So yeah, in terms of impact and just like, oh my god, this is awesome. I think that
I had to talk friends off the ledge after that spot because I said, guys, like, clearly look at them, like, it's clearly gimmicked, like no one's bleeding, it's fine, like they pretty much just fell into like rubber.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for me the chair shot was the one that I just went, oh my god, because it's been so long since I've seen a headshot with the chair that I'm like, ah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anything come to mind for you, Liam?
Off the top of my head, same match, the Omega Moxley, but at the end, the missed 450 on the boards.
Oh
and
yeah.
the shift on the boards.
Yeah. No, the Phoenix Splash.
Yeah, Phoenix Splash.
The Ibushi callback. Yeah.
Those were both
That-
brutal.
yeah,
that was the first time
looked-
I'd seen that. I'm going to talk about that a little later because that's on my match list. But yeah, those come to mind for me.
Yeah, the only other thing that reminds me of that was Darby's first coffin drop that he failed at
Yeah,
Fyter
the
Fest.
first time you saw that, I think, you know what, Adam, that might win, actually, because that was, like, of all the spots I saw this year, I viscerally reacted to that one the most.
Yeah, like, that pay-per-view is a lot of people, like, really kind of bury it because it was a free show and it was kind of the small, like, little thing. They also give it a little bit of shit because of that Jabali Nakazawa match, which I actually personally enjoyed because I thought it was fun.
I thought it was pretty funny with the oil and the
Wrestling's not supposed to be fun.
the Lego blocks. Well, and Alex Jabali's not a wrestler.
that show as a
and
whole,
he did a bunch of spots.
that show as a whole had a bunch of shit. You had the chair shot, you had Darby's coffin drop, you had the Janela Moxley match,
which was the first one of its
that
kind.
was their first lights out. So it was like that was a violent show.
Yeah. Gave the fighting, the video game fans what they wanted, I guess.
Yeah. Well, going back to our proper awards, since I kind of just called the audible on that one. Next up would be favorite female wrestler from so far. I'll go in opposite order then, so we'll start with you, Liam.
So I had to think about this because I was thinking about giving this to Nyla, but someone who came in late in the year and worked very consistently and who I'm very excited about and I think will be champion, I'm picking Hikaru Shida. I love her look. I love her moveset. Her entrance, even though it's a little bit long at the beginning, is really cool. And, you know, as someone who's come over and is living in the United States and is not super great at English yet, I think her Twitter is really awesome as well. I really like her. She's my favorite AEW female wrestler for this year.
As much as I think she's adorable, I think she needs to change her tights because I totally forgot about this. During that 4-way when Nyla did the senton on her through the table, I forgot that she has that cut in her tights. So I legitimately thought, like, her pants just suddenly rode down quite a bit there. I'm like, holy fuck. Oh, nope, never mind. It's fine. It's fine.
That'd be one way to get viewers.
Well, Sasha learned that when she had her pants pulled down the one match.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Sammy had that also in the same show. Man, there was a couple of times where I thought people's trunks were falling off.
Yeah,
Shit.
exactly. I just think, well, the other thing I would say about Shida is that, like, she came in near the end, right? I don't think she worked a match until dark in either late October or early November, and then
Yeah, no, I don't think she. Well, she was on the original Double or Nothing in that 6 woman Joshi tag, but I don't think she showed up since until.
And
television.
she was at All Out because that's who Riho beat to get the title shot, and then she disappeared for a while.
Oh, that's
right. And then she worked like a solid 7-8 weeks in a row to end the year, and a couple of those tag matches were the quality or whatever. But the Statlander match, the Britt Baker match, I thought she was the most consistent worker in that division at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, what about you, Joe?
Yeah, I had to give this one quite a lot of thought too, because all in all, the women's division's been interesting. I guess you could say at least it's been kind of difficult to find super high spots. But
there really hasn't been one that stood out. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. I guess that's more of what I'm trying to say. I'm going with Hikaru Shida too. I think again like Liam said, just she has that presence. She's a great wrestler. Twitter, like he says, very funny. I just think, all in all, she's shown herself to be a competitor, and it seems like fans like her quite a lot, too. They certainly like her more than Britt Baker. They certainly like her more than Emi Sakura. So I definitely say, Hikaru Shida has definitely had the breakout year, I'd say, for the American wrestling fan in AEW.
I want 2 changes to her.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be both. It can be one or the other. One, either put a little more intensity to her music, because as soon as the actual music starts, it's not that interesting. It's just very blatant Japanese.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting coming out to. I can't imagine her winning the title and that music getting her over.
Right.
Because when you hear like when Austin used to win all the time, or when Rock used to win, like you got energized when they won. I can't imagine being that energized when her music kicks in, because it's kind of not that good.
Yeah, I think all in all, and we could talk about this another time, AEW, we may have mentioned this before, needs those glass shatterings, or they need those, if you smell, they kind of need those type of, those big things at the beginning of these songs that, get the crowd to be like, oh my god, I think they, all in all, need to develop that type of thing with the theme songs.
This is where the second option comes in. The second one is have her actually come out at the beginning of the entrance and do some cool, like, little dance thing. Like with like some elegant, like almost like kendo training, like I guess very like proper. Either that or what they could do, and I thought about this too. They can have like a veil behind the stage so that when she comes out, it's like a shadowy presence, like she's slowly coming out. Like just do something unique with it, because that long intro really leads you to do something dramatic with it.
Yeah, that big deity controlling energy on the screen.
I mean, unless you can figure out a way to shoot like Sakura petals out down the stage.
Yeah.
Actually, fuck, that'd be cool if they could drop like Sakura flower petals, like on top of her as she comes out to the entrance. That would look fucking badass.
Well, just use the same cannons as used for the Bucks money. You have to do it. You have to do it slower. It would be too much.
It needs to cascade down, almost like what like whenever you used to see like Randy Orton's old entrance when the sparks would come down, or Okada with his money where it drops from up high.
Slow drop.
Like you could do that, and it would look really badass because it would make her look like she's a literal fucking samurai.
Right.
But yeah, my pick is actually not Shida, even though I want to because I love her. This goes honestly to just the person that I'm the most over on right now, and that's Chris Statlander, because I had no idea who this girl was. It's similar to a lot of the guys in AEW, like a Darby Allin, where I knew nothing, and the first time I saw her, I'm like, holy shit, this girl's got something. And her gimmick is interesting. A lot of people don't understand the boop thing. I actually think it's kind of funny because it's a nice little cheesy spot you can do halfway in the match just to piss the heel off.
For sure.
But as a whole, like she's been incredible, and she's got the agility to be a smaller girl, but has a bigger look to her, so she looks like she can also create a lot of damage too. I think this girl is just a lot of promise, and given that, like I said earlier, nobody's really stood out in the division. I think somebody that has the potential that Statlander has shown me is somebody that I'm definitely looking forward to in this new year. Whereas a lot of the girls so far, I'm just like, I need to see something still. So that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, fair enough.
Last up then would be the best male wrestler, so I'll give Joe the floor on that one to start with.
Damn, putting me off on the spotlight here. This one was kind of difficult, but I think that the answer for me is clear, at least. John Moxley I'm going with, and I'm saying that just because when I was watching Double or Nothing, there's been few times in wrestling for me genuinely where I've had those, people talk about mark out moments. I was literally stunned, and I was like, oh my fucking god, he's in AEW, this is insane. And the crowd was a roar from the crowd that I've quite literally had one of the only times I've seen something live that I've heard something like that. It was unbelievable. And he's had a great year. He's done very well in Japan, but more importantly in AEW. I mean, that match with Omega, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later, it was absolutely insane, and I loved it. A lot of people thought, oh, it was too brutal, it was too violent. Those people have never survived during the ECW days, even though I wasn't born yet.
It's so weird that I grew up with ECW, so I was like not even a teenager when I first saw ECW matches, and I wasn't phased at all. So I don't know what the fuck the problem is with people today.
Yeah, the people were very, very upset by that match for some reason. Just because I guess they don't understand that wrestling's a work, people. It's a work. So
but Moxley has been incredible. Like,
yeah, he's had
some of the best. Like, anytime he has the mic, it's fantastic because they're letting him go. They're letting him talk. Like, even that original promo he did outside of Double or Nothing, where he did the initial paradigm shift promo, that was just like, oh my god, this is what he's like when he doesn't have a fucking script in front of him.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And apparently he cut that in 2 minutes. Like, there was one take. Yeah. He didn't have to redo it several times. The script wasn't rewritten. He wasn't spending his entire day trying to get a pooper scooper line out of the fucking promo. He just straight up talked. And I'm like, if that's what this guy can do without a script, imagine what happens if he has a little bit of direction. And that's probably what they're doing with him now. It's just like, hey, just do this. And say whatever the fuck you want in that, but just cover this.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think this is, close second for me as MJF. I think MJF has had a complete breakout year. And I'm sure there's a possibility that one of you guys would bring him up, so I don't want to talk too much about that. But all in all, yeah, I think Jon Moxley, just incredible, great year, and he's my pick.
What about you, Liam?
Sorry. Had to move my mic back there for a second. So this will probably not come as a big surprise, and it's somewhat biased, but one of the great things of this year was doing this.
He's going with Peter Avalon.
You know it, baby. The librarians all the way. One of the reasons he's the reason I started watching AEW, and it's I think I've said this on the podcast before, but Chris Jericho was my pick. It's the reason I got it rekindled my love as a wrestling fan. He's the best he's been in a long time. Every promo is fucking great. Pretty much every match he's done to date has been, certainly all the singles ones. I think like the SCU tag one was a bit flimsy for me, but
hell, we never talked about it because we missed that show. But the Jungle Boy 10-minute draw was fucking fantastic. They told a great story in that match.
He's the man, and he's 49 years old, but he is still in pretty good physical shape, and he's still,
I guarantee you, this motherfucker could have fought Marco Stunt at that show instead, and they still could have pulled off a fantastic match out of it.
Probably.
So if we're lucky enough to still be doing this together this time next year, I'll probably pick somebody else. But having,
I mean, if he has another amazing 12 months, I wouldn't be shocked if we do again. So.
But he's been my favorite wrestler since I was 9 years old, and that was 1999. So it feels good to be watching him on TV week after week again, and it makes me happy to be watching wrestling again. So it's Jericho. If I was going to pick somebody I didn't know before this year that I was only introduced to through AEW, like Joe said, I probably would have, or like you said, Adam, I probably would have picked Darby Allin because he's blown me away. But
absolutely,
but no, it's Jericho for me.
Then I'm going to do what I did with the last award, where somebody that I'm just super over on right now. My favorite so far this year has been Luchasaurus.
Interesting.
Because this is a guy that I look at as somebody who actually has everything that I've never seen before on a guy, where he's got the size and he can do the power moves. But that guy has the fucking kicks of a martial arts like world champion. Yeah. Fucking has amazing charisma, which is understated, because anytime he's talked, it ended up being like really good.
One of my favorite promos.
And the guy's got some comedy presence too. And this is a guy that like It's tough because I really do believe this guy could be a world champion. It's just a matter of whether or not that the fans can get behind that. And I think by the way they've reacted to him so far, that it's possible.
Absolutely.
I mean, hell, like we're at a point that Orange Cassidy could even win a championship belt, and people would be like, "Fuck yeah!"
If done the right way, that's right. Well, to your point, like I saw it the first time I saw him, I thought it looked ridiculous that he was wearing the mask, and every subsequent time he's blown me away.
Yeah. The first time he did that first like roundhouse kick where he has like the quick pause and then smacks, I'm like, oh, hello, and then he did a friggin' standing shooting star. I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is not what I thought this was gonna be.
Yeah, he's incredible.
So yeah, no, like this is a guy that, I mean, because I could easily just go with Omega or Moxley or Jericho or anything like that, but to me, it's easy for me to hold out on that, and I think as a lapsed wrestling fan who's kind of just been so done with the same stuff for the last 10 years, something so new that's blown me away is just an easy one for me to claim. I mean, like you said too, Darby Allin is up there as well. And Darby Allin would have been a great pick for me too. It's just Luchasaurus just happened to catch me that much more, which I didn't think was possible. I thought when I first saw Darby Allin at that Fyter Fest match, I'm like, fuck, well, there's my new favorite guy. And then Luchasaurus just kind of popped in and said, excuse me, I'm just going to come right through here.
I have a master's degree in medieval history.
And it's just a fantastic fucking guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
True that.
I'm going to call one more audible because I just had this thought while we were talking about all that stuff. Who do you want to see as like your guy next year? Like by the time that we're here next year, assuming that happens, who do you want to be the guy that you put at the top?
Interesting. I mean, I can say, he's my second choice. I want to see, by this time next year, I want to see MJF in the midst of his 5-month title reign. Or, maybe not 5-month year, whatever. I want to see him, maybe 5-month title reign. I want to see, MJF be the guy has shown everyone. Because we haven't really, so far from MJF, what we've seen is he's terrific on the mic, obviously. Probably one of the best in the company right now. I'd say him and Jericho are probably the two best in the company on the mic. But we haven't really seen too much ring work from him.
From what I have seen of him, he's like slightly above average. It's more that you want to see him just get fucking wrecked.
Right. So I think that I would like to see, if he can kind of make his ring work a little more interesting and can kind of develop that a little bit further to match his insane levels of charisma, which I think we have not seen levels of charisma, and this is a very bold statement since I want to say like from The Rock almost, this type of thing. He definitely reminds me a lot of his promos. I think you could definitely say that he's drawn heavy inspiration from The Rock. In terms of Stone Cold or from guys like that. And I think he's an enormous star, and I can't wait to see what 2020 has in store for him.
See, I'm going the polar opposite. I'm a guy that's like, man, I really want by the end of next year to say that Kenny Omega had a fucking massive resurgence and is back to being the best belt machine and the best guy in the business. Because, I mean, this has been a year where I think it was intentional because a lot of people said, man, this has not been a good year for him. Like, no, I think it's been exactly what he's needed because he needed a chance to rebuild himself to a brand new audience because he's over with a segment of a wrestling crowd that is not the entirety. And I think starting on a new show like this, he needed to... You can't just put him at the top. Like, that's why I think Jericho made sense being the first champion, is because that's a guy that people know is a bona fide star. Not everybody knows that Kenny Omega is already a bona fide star, so you got to make him one again here.
I respect that.
So
he and
hopefully the next 12 months is going to be that.
Yeah, I think I would not be shocked if that was the case. I do respect that Kenny and the Bucks have not put themselves over immediately. Because that's the fear sometimes when wrestlers are executive vice presidents or they're helping run the company. Like if this was Hall, Nash, and Hogan, or if it was Jeff Jarrett,
right.
we've seen what that influence can kind of do. So,
well, yeah, if it was the NWO, Hogan would be champ and Hall and Nash would be tag champs.
I respect that they've kind of the one guy who's in that leadership structure who's been pretty solid since the beginning is Cody, but that's kind of been out of necessity because he's the most over guy, and they've needed him to carry some of those big.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Moxley obviously will come into that role. He already has, and I think, obviously, because I still feel like he should win at Revolution, but if he doesn't, he's still at the top and can still make that run. So.
For sure. Belt or not, he's a top guy.
What do you got, Liam?
I want MJF to have a big year, and like we were saying earlier, I really want Darby Allin to have a big year. Darby looks like a star, which is nuts because he's like 170 pounds.
I wouldn't be shocked if the match for the mid-card title is Darby Allin playing the face in that role. Whether it's Sammy or whether it's MJF, I would not be surprised if Darby is the one on the other end of the ring.
I mean,
I'd want to see Darby Sammy. That match sounds incredible to me. Darby MJF again, just because I don't know too much really about his working style because we haven't seen too much of it. Darby Sammy could be a banger
really good
for the title.
I think Darby is an excellent worker in the ring. and they've given
Darby's just one of those guys where you just hope he can stay healthy.
They've given him a lot to do, but at the same time, it feels like they haven't given him a lot to do because his paper.
Also, I forgot about this. I love the fact that they're giving him like different video packages before he comes out.
Well, and he's done some cool stuff with that, right? He came out like this week. He comes out with the guy from the band wearing the weird Mike Myers costume with the messed up mask.
Well, yeah, because who is it? Was it Moxley? Yeah, Moxley came out after he was crowd surfing in a body bag. Like I love that, and even Brian Alvarez was saying it in one of their podcasts that they put out that. Every time you see a guy come out in WWE, it's the same Titantron, that's all you get. AEW has done a fantastic job at having different locations, obviously this last show being at Daly's place again, like it was for Fight for the Fallen. And they're having guys come out with video packages, so it's not just the same, hit the music, hit the video, and that's it.
Right.
So you get unique entrances, and it's not just reserved for pay-per-views, which is great.
Wholeheartedly agree.
I'll agree.
And Daly's place looks good on TV. They should do the Homecoming.
Oh, it absolutely does, yeah.
There every year because it looks good.
At first, I was a little afraid, just going back to Daly's place, that it would look. From the beginning, it seemed pretty small, but then once they kind of opened it up a little bit, and you kind of could see more of the back wings of it. Because before, obviously, it was opened up during Fyter Fest, I think, because it was during the summer. So it kind of initially looked a little small, but I think, as kind of the show went on and they panned out and showed everything, it still looked like a good size. But, small isn't necessarily bad. It's just obviously I've been accustomed to these basketball stadiums. So yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll get to our top 3 matches. Let's see. Do I want to do this? You know what? I'll do this in order with everybody. So you know what? I'll kick us off here. So number 3, I went a little bit off the board, and I picked Nick Jackson up against Phoenix on the November 11th episode of Dynamite.
Really good match.
Really good, yeah.
Mainly for the idea that I had no idea that Nick was that good on his own, because I figured, okay, this guy is so used to tag team wrestling, like this guy really doesn't train to do singles matches because he hadn't done one in 4.5 years, as we heard on that show. Right. And he pulled out one of the most fun matches I've seen in a long time in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of just sheer, I had a massive smile on my face just watching, that was it.
It helps that Phoenix is an absolute lunatic in the ring, too, obviously.
Well, yeah, it helped a little bit, but it's not like Nick isn't right. Devoid of doing crazy shit, too.
Yeah, no. True that.
Number 2, I had... it was going to be a lights out match regardless, but it was just a matter of which one, so I went with the original, and that was him and Joey Janela at Fyter Fest, only because... I never have cringed so hard than when he atomic dropped Joey Janela's feet into the thumbtacks.
Yeah, that hurt a little.
Like the Omega Janela, or the Omega, actually Omega and Janela did have one too, so I guess that was also falling into that category. But the Omega Moxley one, I think was just a better wrestling match, and it just happened to have a lot of weapon spots. The Janela Moxley one was just that was CZW level shit, just without light tubes, really.
Right.
Thank God. Otherwise, number 1, and I'd be surprised if anybody doesn't have this as their list. It's so hard to not put in Cody and Dustin at Double or Nothing, because that literally is the definition of a classic old school wrestling match. The best storytelling you will ever see in a match. A blood feud that didn't even really have a feud to it. It just happened to be a just literal and figurative blood match.
Yeah,
and
the resurrection of Dustin.
If there was ever a match that confirmed to me. If there was ever a match that confirmed to me that this was a new company that was going to have a vision different from what WWE is, to the point that it was blatantly noticeable, this match showed me that. And that's what hooked me. If there was any match on that first show that hooked me into this company and made it a for sure thing that WWE was going by the wayside, this match did that.
Yeah.
Joe, we'll go to you then.
So I guess number 3, I'm gonna put I believe the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks at All Out ladder match, the Escalera de la Muerte. If you're talking about crazy ladder matches in history, I think you're putting that one up there with, Edge, Christian, Dudley Boards, and the Hardys.
Yeah, that's going with all those old school TLC matches.
Yeah, sure. And X7 and all that stuff. So, I think it was incredible. Like I said, the Canadian Destroyer off the top of the ladder through the table was absolutely fucking bonkers.
How nobody got injured in that match is shocking.
Yeah, no, and it looked like there was that time where I think it was Matt, or maybe it was Nick, took a pretty nasty fall where I guess the ladder wasn't close enough to the ring, and he
I'm
went through a
pretty
table.
sure that was Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, and he just ate shit and didn't go through both the tables. He only went through one.
Yeah, he only went through like half.
Yeah, and he tripped pretty bad, it looked like. But yeah, that match, all in all, was absolute bonkers. It really, really felt that match. It was like, oh yeah, these guys, you know, they saw WrestleMania X7, they saw SummerSlam 2000, 2002, whatever it was.
They were watching a lot of tape.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you can definitely tell, and it was incredible. And I think that match really set the pace for, you know, if you're doing a ladder match in AEW, then we're doing a ladder match in AEW.
You just imagine them sitting in a room, just being like, "All right, that's been done, that's been done, that's been done," and they look at the list and be like, "Okay, so we can do this, we can do this."
Yep. Canadian Destroyer off the top of the ladder through a table. We haven't seen that before. Okay, cool. Side by side, people jumping off ladders at the same exact time and putting people through tables. Probably haven't really seen that before. Okay, cool. But yeah, that match was phenomenal. Really good. That's in my number 3 spot. Number 2, I'm probably going to go with Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, Lights Out. I think I'm just, as you guys will learn, and maybe you already have learned, I'm a huge fan of hardcore matches in general. I think really that's something just nitty-gritty, dirty. I think about a blood feud like that, and, you know, just seeing these two beat the shit out of each other, and just so many crazy spots that are it's hard to remember all of them. You know, the glass stuff, obviously the barbed wire spider, the mousetrap board shit, you know, all that stuff. It was absolutely insane, and it was really a match again that it shows, you know, me, who I'm already a pretty invested, heavily wrestling fan and invest in AEW, but I think it helped, you know, I have friends who now watch AEW Dynamite because of that match, because they saw that match and they went, holy cow, this isn't what we're used to seeing from WWE. This is something completely, entirely different than, you know, a WWE hardcore match where maybe there's a chair shot here and maybe someone goes through a table. It was incredible.
Side note on that, have you ever seen Vice's deathmatch documentaries that they've done on
YouTube?
YouTube?
Yes, I have. They're very interesting.
Those are cool. Have you ever heard of that stuff, Liam?
Yeah, a little bit. I've watched a little bit of it.
Because they did a couple of ones with this guy called Casanova, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like they were doing these death matches in like a bar in New York, like crazy shit like that. Mm-hmm. And then they did a straight like long form one on the Tournament of Death in CZW, and that one is just gross as fuck. Seeing some of that shit.
Yeah, I think it gets to a point with hardcore wrestling, especially with CZW, sometimes where, you know, when you're, I don't know if you guys have seen the clip of a guy getting hit with a weed whacker, but you know, I think once it comes to that type of stuff, it sometimes gets a little overboard, and, you know, it is some of that outlaw mud show shit, but. Yeah. I think all in all, I think that match really, it was the perfect mixture. It pushed it right to the edge, I think, of being too much of that. And it had one of the craziest moments of the year, Jon Moxley crawling through the glass to try to escape the sharpshooter, which I thought was unbelievably
that was cool. Yeah. I remember the name too. It was Casanova Valentine. Was that guy?
I've seen him wrestle MJF, and I've seen some of his more extreme stuff too. But yeah. An interesting cat to see.
Yeah, but that was very cool. And
so what was your number 1 then, Joe?
My number 1, I'm also going to have to go Cody and Dustin. I mean, for every reason that you said. And yeah, it was just brother. There was, you know, just a lot of, you know, heat there.
I thought you were going to say a lot of blood, because that would also be true.
Yeah, that's true too. There was a ton of blood. It was a proper blood feud. There was blood in the blood feud. You know, it had that terrific ending too, which got all the grown men in the audience to shed a tear or two. I thought, yeah, it was just all around, like you said, old school classic, terrifically put together wrestling match. No weird shit happening. No, you know, no real gimmick. Just kind of just two people fighting and just, you know, seeing who's the better man at the end of the day.
Like, that was 70s, 80s wrestling. Like, that was a Flair or Hartley race match right there.
Yeah, I agree. It was incredible. I loved it. I was, you know, never alive during any of that stuff, and I haven't really watched a lot of that stuff, but I loved it nonetheless. I thought it was awesome.
All right, Liam, what do you got for 3?
For 3, I have Cody versus Dustin at Double or Nothing. So I don't know how much I can how much can I say about it that hasn't been said, other than like it was the first time I watched Dustin Rhodes wrestle in a long time. It was kind of a great way of saying, like, you know, there's a generation of fans that think I'm just gold dust, like you ain't seen nothing yet, baby. It was fucking awesome, like you guys said. It told the whole story from beginning to end.
Isn't it funny that, like, since that match he's resurged even more?
Well, it put him over huge, right? And I think it was really good. And like you know, he looked good. The outfit looked good. The makeup looked good. And then, of course, the other side of his head was red by the end of it too. that like Cody was smeared in blood and it stained his blonde hair. That
Yeah, and then he came back out at the end of the show, and
Yeah.
he was still he never took a shower, so he still had like the dry blood.
he
in his
and
hair.
Brandy were
That's an old
ostensibly
Dusty
heels
thing.
in the match was interesting because she was involved in it early too. And like you guys said, it was really good. And then, of course, it ends with them saying they need to team up to fight the Young Bucks. It was definitely a way to put the company on the map. Number 2, I have Kenny versus Moxley. I have had some familiarity, like as Adam said, I watched ECW. It went off the air when I was 11, so I was watching it for its last 2 years. And, had seen some Necro Butcher stuff and some Casanova Valentine stuff. But this was the first time I had seen it like this on a major pay-per-view, and I had a couple people over, one of whom was incredibly squeamish about it, and I wasn't sure if it was just going to be, gore for the sake of gore, but I thought it was really, really good from the very beginning to the end. When Moxley gets out of the ring and goes, unsanctioned, it's time for some fucking garbage wrestling. And they just proceed to put on this 40-minute classic. The glass, you could kind of tell was fake, but like when he put it in his mouth and punched it, I mean, that was brutal. Like you said, when you had him in the sharpshooter on it.
That was cool.
Groom was an awesome spot. Putting V-triggering him through the stage was an awesome spot after the barbed wire spider. And then, like I said, like I had never seen when he cut off the ring canvas and they put him on the boards. I had never seen. I know that there had been a tag match in Impact a couple years ago that was done purely on the boards, but I had never seen it, so that was the first time I.
Yeah, WWE did that at one point when the Nexus came in. They like ripped the entire ring up and was doing shit. Like it happens, but this is like a once every like 3 years kind of thing that happens in wrestling.
So there you go.
Yeah, no, it happened with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano too.
Okay,
That's
okay.
right. Yeah, that's true too.
But this was my first exposure to it, so I thought that was great. And then my number 1 was from the same pay-per-view, Jericho versus Cody, which I thought told an awesome match, an awesome story from beginning to end. Jericho shitting on the legacy of Cody and his family, his mom being ringside and slapping Jericho in the middle of the match. The stipulation.
It was a real gut punch at the end, or I guess in that case,
exactly. So it had that too. So great wrestling all the way through. Jericho wearing the Le Champion weight belt to mock Cody wearing his weight belts, and then a great heel turn at the end, and the heartbreak for Cody, the fact that Cody like messed up his face unintentionally halfway through. And,
oh my
added
God!
some real color to it. Jericho celebrating on the ring with his guys. I thought it was because it was the first pay-per-view since they had been on television.
You remember too when people said that spot was clearly like gimmicked, and it's like no, like you see the scar on his face is still there. Like you don't gimmick yourself and get that scar. Like no, he legit fucked himself.
Yeah,
up.
no, like everyone thought he bladed because of course.
Like now we know. Now we have our answer that he definitely didn't mean to do it.
Yeah.
Now we know for sure.
Yeah, because here you are 2 months later and it's still on his face. So.
Yeah.
So those were my 3. The only runner-up I had was
that was a fantastic.
Yeah, no, I wanted to put a tag match on here because I feel that that's obviously been a great aspect of the company. If I had to, I'd say that the Bucks versus Private Party was my favorite one, but those were the
in my home turf.
The tournament one.
But those are my top 3.
That was really good.
I saw that one live in Boston, and it was absolutely incredible. I have to say it was incredible. I definitely think that if
if I was going to go for a tag match, I'd go for the Escalera de la Muerte as well. That one was definitely just unbelievably. Even just quickly, like can you guys think of a women's match that would go up on there?
Oh Christ, you're gonna make me look like a sexist.
Sorry, go. You go.
I actually am going to go off the board because I can think of one immediately. There was the match with Statlander and Bea Priestley on Dark recently that I thought was really, really good and really underrated.
Mine would be Britt Baker.
Especially because Bea Priestley has been kind of like floating around for a while, and that was the first match that I'm like, oh, this is what's been so good in Stardom with her. Okay.
I liked the Priestley Baker match. I don't know if I thought it was really physical and really good. My favorite to date would be the one this week, but obviously that's 2020. So my pick for last year would be Baker Priestley.
Yeah,
I've put Joe on the spot so good.
Yeah, no, I know. You truly did. I'm wrecking my brain. Not just because I'm on the spot, but not just because of recency bias, but I would also say if it somehow in some weird world counts to just make me not look like a chauvinist pig who doesn't give a shit about the women's wrestling, I definitely would say that the match from last week's Dynamite, I think it was the most interested truly I've been in a lot of the women's wrestling matches in a while. Either that or the initial Nyla Rose Riho championship match I maybe would put on there. I think that match is pretty good as well.
All right, so we're almost hitting 2 hours, so we got about 15 minutes left. I thought because this question came to me while we were talking, so I figure if we had time, I would ask it to kind of end off the show.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Royal Rumble is coming up in a few weeks for WWE. What do you think about them having a proper Royal Rumble sort of match for a title shot, like WWE does? Now, I know the Casino Battle Royal has been a thing. I personally think they need to squash that idea because I don't think it works. I think it's too weird to have 5 people come out at the same time. There's not proper entrances. There's no shock value to people coming out at certain intervals. I think if they want to do Battle Royals, they either need to do what they would do in some like number one contender Battle Royals where just everybody be in the ring and start at the same time, or they need to do like what a Royal Rumble is and just straight up do 2 guys come out, 1 keeps coming. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that would be a cool thing to do? Say it like even like a Double or Nothing if they wanted to call it the Casino Battle Royal and just not do the 5 and 5 and 5?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely some type of thing like that would definitely work well with this company. I think that the Casino Battle Royale in general isn't working like you were saying. But I would definitely like to see some different type of iteration with that, and maybe even have some type of big match like that be for a spot at All Out or something, almost like the
that's
Royal
what I was
Rumble.
thinking because you can keep the Casino Battle Royale name and keep it a Double or Nothing because it has the chips to it.
Right.
And All Out, and as far as I've seen, because that's where the first title match was ever held, All Out sounds like a great name as your final pay-per-view to kick off, to end off a season, I guess, essentially. Like, that's your big WrestleMania-type show.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a great to have, in May, you have your big Rumble match. I guess in this case, the Casino Battle Royal, pick your number one contender, and then All Out, that's where the title match goes. Because I think it makes sense like that. I obviously wouldn't want AEW to do a G1 climax because I don't think I could handle 2 weeks of fucking wrestling in a row. So I think a Battle Royal is the best thing for American television to do. Mm-hmm. What do you think on that, Liam?
Yeah, well, whether it's a Battle Royal or it's a King of the Ring style tournament, I am interested to see.
Yeah, even a King of the Ring tournament would work too.
Like a concept that establishes somebody that gets a title shot, either on a definitive schedule or it's a Money in the Bank style situation where they get a title shot at some point. Because as of now, we really only have the rankings determining who get title shots, and not even really then, right? Because we've talked about that on the show before. So
because a cool thing you could do with the rankings too, even because I just thought about it, you could have like the person with the best ranking could be number 30 or number 20, depending on how many guys you want to throw in there.
But you can play around with the dynamic that way. But I am interested to see, as it is still the first year, they introduce new match concepts or new tournament concepts that do give you a title shot. And help determine the schedule a little better as to who, and it helps you push people, right? In ways that you might not be able to do naturally through the ranking system at this point.
I mean, the way that I look at it is, it really just comes down to I like the idea of a battle royal. I just don't like the way that they're doing it because it doesn't lead any chance to have cool entrances. Because obviously we had Billy Gunn come out for that one battle royal for the Diamond Dozen, and there was no real I mean, he had an entrance, but there was not really a countdown built to it. It just happens. Yeah. I think it'd be really cool because assuming, I don't know if they could pull off 30 guys, but they could do 20, and you could have 3 surprises in there, 3 legends or 2 legends in a debut. You can always do that, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about WWE television, but when the Rumble happens, I'm watching it because I want to see who shows up.
Yeah,
it's more the intrigue of it, less than the actual match itself. And I think AEW is a brand that's starting out, especially if you got guys you still got to debut, or obviously next week on Dynamite they're doing that Nashville Legends thing. They definitely have, and they've shown several times, they're willing to put legends out there for a quick pop in a match. Mm-hmm. So why not give that another chance with a Battle Royale, especially one like what the Rumble does for WWE?
I'd be supportive of that idea. And speaking of Billy Gunn, he's on AEW Dark this week.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't see what the matches were for that yet. Do you have that in front of you, or
no? But I can pull it up. Just give me a second.
Well, I can try to see. Let's see who can find it faster.
The other ones. So, and then of course for Dynamite this week, we know there's Sammy against. Okay, so here's Dark this week. Billy Gunn and Austin Gunn against Sean Spears and Preston Vance.
Oh, his son.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome
Okay.
call.
That's cool. I don't know who Preston Vance is, so it's probably just some random dude
Might
they
be a
throw in
local
there.
guy. Awesome
Yeah.
Kong against Skylar Moore.
Don't know who
And
that
then-
is.
Okay, so another squash.
SCU against
Yeah.
Angelico, Jack Evans, and Kip Sabian.
Okay.
Who'd you say was with? Who's that first name you mentioned?
It's TH2 and Kip Sabian, so it's Angelico and Jack
Oh,
Evans.
TH2. You said okay.
And then on Dynamite,
That's the one thing. Like, Angelico has been one of those guys that I was so over on in Lucha Underground. I feel like he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, he hasn't. Jack Evans
It's-
is shown to be a bigger star.
they're
almost in my
entertaining,
mind.
but they haven't.
Yeah,
pushed
which is
them.
weird because I thought it would have been the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe Angelico, like, and I'm not going to throw anything crazy out there, but it almost feels like there's some personal things going on with him or something that's kind of like holding them back because like this is not the same guy that I saw a few years ago just being one of the best guys in the company at that time.
Well,
Because that guy was just
Interesting.
incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean that crossbody shit is still what people talk about with the craziest.
Maybe
spots.
he fucked up his body too much from
yeah,
doing those
maybe
spots.
completely ruined his body from doing stupid shit like that. But
Maybe that's why he after Lucha Underground he came out being like, all right, I need to stop doing this crazy shit.
yeah, no, fair enough. I'd say so. But yeah, I agree. I don't know really what's been going on over.
But
on that
otherwise, I
front.
mean, there's so much cool stuff that they could do in this whole 12-month period. Obviously, we're going to see a new mid-card title. I hope they don't go too crazy with the women and just keep it at one. I don't want them to rush in a tag team division for them because obviously they still need to establish things there. I don't think they're going to rush that much. Otherwise, I mean, we'll find it obviously tonight at with what happens at Wrestle Kingdom, whether or not there's going to be an immediate AEW New Japan relationship, which we'll obviously talk about more if that is the case next show. Otherwise, I mean, realistically, like, I mean, for the not count, like, because I mean, realistically, we're looking at the fall and like a slight bit of winter for what we've seen so far. I mean, there is the pay-per-views, but generally speaking, we've had about 3-4 months of television now, and all in all, I mean, if this is our first impression, fuck yeah, I'm down for another 12 months.
Yeah, I agree.
Sign me up.
I'm with it.
I mean, at this point, it's like, fuck, you're gonna have to try to do some real shitty shit to get me off of this train. Like, if they make a big mistake, I'll be like, all right, there's your one. They make another one, I'm like, okay, come on, guys, seriously. Then if they get to 3, I'm like, all right, now you're just WWE. What the fuck's the matter with you?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's going to take a while to do 3 mistakes, I think. Because the way that they're running, I mean, so far, any mistakes that we think they've made have been minor. Like, realistically, the biggest one, as far as I'm concerned, is just who they've been pushing in the women's division. They just rushed a few people. Otherwise, like, in terms of the men or the tag teams, like, realistically, I mean, there's been a couple of hiccups, but nothing has been like, fuck, that was a terrible idea. It's just been,
I agree.
It's water under the bridge, really. So otherwise, anything you guys looking forward to in the new year for this show? Is there anything like you want to see otherwise? Otherwise, I think we might as well just end this off.
More hardcore matches.
I mean, personally, if they do a lights out every 2 pay-per-views, I think that's a good spot for it.
I agree.
you
I
can-
don't
you
want
can-
to see it.
You can use that as like, that's supposed to be like what Hell in a Cell used to be before they made an annual pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I have obviously I say that kind of jokingly, have it be only in feuds where it needs that type of thing. The stakes are that high. Where
Also, can we have a lights out match that Moxley's not a part of? I know that there was technically the
agree with that,
Janela
yeah.
Omega one on Dark, but come on, that doesn't count. Like, Cody
I think I said
MJF
this
could
the first time we ever-
perceivably end in a lights out match.
Yeah, well, I think the first time we got together, the one I said I always wanted to see, it would have Moxley. I do want to see a Moxley Pentagon lights out match at some point.
Also, a tag team one. Can you imagine a Pride and Powerful?
Yeah, well, that street fight was really good, so let's hope so.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just imagining, like, if there's a team that I could see in that right away, Pride and Powerful would definitely be one of them.
Well, yeah, you're talking about things I want to see this year. I want to see a tournament. I want to see Darby Allin have a big year, and I want PNP to win the tag titles.
I think that's a foregone conclusion. Actually, you know what? We'll finish off with this. Who do you think is going to be the second champion on each belt?
Chris Statlander, PNP, and I don't know about the world title. It might be Moxley. It seems the most likely, but if not,
if like the way that I look at, I'm completely in agreement on the first two, Statlander and PNP. The only way, if it's not Moxley, it has to be Omega. There's no one else
That's what I
really
was
that
thinking,
can.
too. Like at Double or Nothing, 1 year since he lost to Jericho.
Like unless they really pop somebody big, like if Luchasaurus just suddenly goes through a resurgence, but I don't think it's quick enough. I don't think there's enough time to do that. So it has to be like, I mean, Cody technically can't challenge now. That's the hole they kind of put
he
themselves
will
in.
eventually, but he can't now,
But-
and he can't not within the next year. So yeah, it's got to be Moxley or Kennedy.
They'll figure out some way to get out of it, but at
Can't
this
do it
point,
right away.
realistically, it can only be two people. It can only be Moxley or Omega. That's the only way Jericho loses it because there's really nobody else that perceivably could be in
Yeah.
that spot.
Well, in the interest of simplicity,
I
I'll
could
say
definitely
Moxley.
see Moxley. Yeah. Yeah, I'd see the two for, in that sense. I see, or three, I guess, in that sense. I see it being Moxley. I see probably. I actually kind of see almost Lucha Brothers. Even though they're powerful, I could definitely see that as well. And then maybe for the women's division, I could see either Hikaru Shida or Chris Statlander.
I mean, realistically, we all are kind of smart enough that we're seeing where things are going, so I think we're pretty much all in agreement. It's just a matter of, it's like, maybe not, because I thought for sure, that we could have seen a title change already, and it just hasn't happened, so you never know. They've been doing a good job at leading you in one direction, and you're like, okay, that's got to be the plan, and then boom, they switch it. And whether that's planned or whether it just happens to change over time, like you never know, but it's been very fun because every time I do predictions for matches, when it used to be WWE, like when I was on a different Discord for this stuff, I called NXT perfectly because as much as I like WWE, especially with NXT and NXT UK, a lot of it's still very easy to figure out where they're going because you can tell who they're pushing and who they're not.
Right.
AEW, everything is so, I don't want to say even slated, but the way that they run things is that just because you've won a couple of matches doesn't automatically mean you're going to win the big one. They're doing a very good job at making you think it's going in one direction and then it doesn't. Or you are thinking, okay, well, it's going to go this direction, so they're going to swerve us, and then they just do the thing that you think was going to happen. So you coin flip most things now, which I think is great because it gives that sense of unpredictability.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, any last thoughts, guys? Otherwise, we're going to shut this thing down.
Nothing from me. Maybe I don't know about Liam.
Well, excited to watch the Rhodes brothers fight the Lucha Brothers this week. Excited to see.
Yeah,
That's going to be
excited to see
fun.
Moxley turn on the Inner Circle, or not turn on them, but reject them. Excited to see
That's going to be a fun promo, too.
Statlander maybe win the title. Adam Page turn on Kenny Omega, maybe.
I feel like that might take a little
might,
bit longer.
yeah.
Unless they want to do that as a match of Revolution. You never know. It depends on when they want to burn that.
And I like when Chris Daniels.
But I think you're right. It's either going to happen in the next couple of weeks or it'll be like something that happens over Revolution.
But lots of irons in the fires, and excited to see what they do this week.
And that's the beauty. Almost everybody's got something going on right now, and
Yeah.
even if they're not going crazy, even for example, I think Jimmy Havocs can have a bigger year this year just because I think the first 3 or 4 months they've just been trying to figure out, okay, who do we got? What can they do? And I think sooner or later you're going to see some guys like Spears as well. You're going to start seeing guys get a little bit more going on because once they have a few more things, like obviously a new belt will help that too because you can have a little bit more. You can lead a couple of people in this direction. You can lead a couple of people to the world title, and you can separate that. So I definitely think that there's going to be a couple of guys that, like, if you haven't seen them doing much now, they're going to be doing more in the next 12 months because obviously there's going to be a lot more television. In 3 months, you're not going to get much of a other than a sample size. So
right.
Otherwise, I think that's going to do it. So
Yeah.
thanks for joining me, guys, on another edition, and hopefully we break in this new year for 12 months worth of podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers to that.
Talk to you next week.
Well, I mean, I have a glass, but I mean, if I cheers the mic, it's going to be loud and not sound very good.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was gonna cheers my shock mount, and I realized
I'll just do.
Idea.
Let's see if this comes through on the mic.
A little.
Okay,
I
well,
can
that's
try
good-
mine
that's
a
good
little.
enough
I can
for
try
me.
mine.
See, that sounds more like you're just hitting the mic.
Mine's
All
plastic,
right. Well,
so it's kind of
that's
anticlimactic.
kind of what I was
Well,
doing.
shit.
But
Well, either way.
Toast a little bit of the
So
bubbly to
thank
you,
you so much
gentlemen.
for listening, guys, or watching this. Oops, sorry. I overjumped here. What's going on,
I
Liam?
said, I cheers a little bit of the bubbly to you, gentlemen. May it be a very successful and happy 2020 for us
Ooh.
all.
indeed.
What bubbly? We can't get that stuff here in Canada because fuck customs.
Once I turn 21, I'll send some to you guys.
Shit. So not only do we got a podcast long enough, we got to wait for you to have a 21st birthday.
Yeah, it's in the summer too. So yeah, you guys have a long.
Oh damn. Well, that's
run,
some extra patience here.
Yeah, you have to exercise
We'll
that.
have
patience.
Joe Mania
once
soon
again-
enough.
Yeah, that's true.
So once again, thank you so much for listening and watching this, guys, depending on where you're at. If you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more stuff, and comment below. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, 4-star us, because we're not worth 5 stars because it wasn't in the Tokyo Dome. And, same deal. Comment on us if you can. Obviously, I'm CSRadical on Twitter. You got JMKROX on Twitter and LDZ324. That's LDEEZY324 on Twitter. So, thank you so much, guys, for catching us again here. And we'll see you as this new year gets rolling. And hopefully we have the same good things to talk about then. So, see you next time.